Your Honor, this is case number 206 on the calendar in the matter of Smithson versus Smithson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Ms. Smithson, you and the defendant are related to each other through marriage. Is that right?
That's correct.
And it is your claim that the defendant assaulted you. You want her to be responsible for your medical bills and whatever pain and suffering you experienced as a result of an assault. You say that the plaintiff was disrespectful to your father-in-law?
To my father.
To your father. And that what ensued as a result of her being disrespectful was really no more than a scuffle and the plaintiff was not injured. That's
Correct.
your defense. You both live in the same town?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And what town is this?
Bethesda, Paytonsville.
Maryland?
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Franklin, Tennessee.
And how long have you been a Smithson?
27 years.
And you?
All my life. It's my maiden name.
Are there rich Smithsons and poor Smithsons?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what I gather from these papers.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you one of the rich Smithsons or
Yes,
one of the
ma'am.
poor Smithsons?
I'm one of the richer Smithsons.
And you?
The poor Smithsons.
No, I got it. But I gather that the rich Smithsons and the poor Smithsons don't get along too well. So I want you to tell me your first name.
Doris Darnell Smithson.
And your first name?
Joanne.
I'm going to ask if you would allow me to be a little less formal because, first of all, Smithson is a tongue twister. And second of all, I want to be able to differentiate between the two of you. So would you mind if I were a little less formal? Is that all right? All right, Doris, tell me what precipitated this problem. I want you to explain to me.
Well, at the
what
time, I really didn't know there was a problem. You know, there's always been harassment in the family ever since she's been in it, actually. But we've always got along with her because of my father's 92-year-old brother.
Okay. Now, your father's brother
Lives
is
with
her
her.
father-in-law.
Yes, ma'am. And it actually was me and her husband that actually had the argument.
Okay. Just tell me what precipitated the argument.
Okay,
There was a
I go-
sale of property.
Yes,
An estate sale.
Estate sale.
And it was the estate sale of your father-in-law who was selling off personal property.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that so far right?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Well, you know, I go up there in good nature. We talk good. I talked with Joanne. I talked with Sam Jr. about stuff that they still had to sell. And I asked them if they had any more of Mamie's stuff, you know, my grandmother's. And they said no. Then they were talking about a lamp that my father wanted. I have no idea about this oil lamp she's talking about. And I said, well, what kind of oil lamp is it he's wanting? And maybe I can get him one. And then Sam Jr. starts coming out discussing...
Sam Jr. is her husband.
Her husband.
Okay.
See, so this was really mine and Sam Jr.'s argument.
Okay. You and her husband got into an argument.
Me and her
over
husband got in an argument.
Over this missing oil lamp.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Okay. So he starts just fussing and just really getting mad, and I'm just calm. I'm like, well, okay, that's fine. You know, you've always been the greedy one in the family, and he always has. He's always
Okay.
been different from all of us.
What day was this, Doris?
Our fight was April the 16th, so it was the Saturday before that.
It was the 10th.
10th of April. That was a week before this altercation
Yes,
that you
ma'am.
had with Joanne.
Yes, ma'am. You
Go
know,
ahead.
so I left, and when I get home, he had called and said that my father went to their sale and left his lounge chairs. Him and my mother left their lounge chairs there.
Did they purchase these chairs?
No, it was their chairs that they
gave
took
them.
to sit in at the auction. So the next day, my father goes up there to get these chairs, and she clobbers him, just literally clobbers him.
Okay. Would you step up, please, sir? Your last name is?
Smithson.
Mr. Smithson. Tell me what happened when you went to get your chairs.
When we didn't get the chair, it was on a Sunday. So I called Joanne and I asked, I said, we left 2 chairs up there. Did somebody get them or they still out? She said, they're sitting out there in front of the barn. So I said, I'll be up there in the morning, which had been Monday morning, so I'll be up there around 9:30 or 10 to get them. She said, that'd be fine. So about 9:30, I went up there. I stopped right in front of the trailer at the parking place. And when I got out, my brother was sitting on the porch. And she come out, and that's when she started shaking her finger at me, cussing. And my brother got
Well,
up
what
there.
did she say to you?
She called me SBs, MF, you name it, she called it.
But she had locked his chairs up in her trunk and wasn't going to let him have him. You're going to listen to me. You tell Darnell.
You listen to me. You weren't listening to me. Doris, you weren't there. And your father is doing just fine.
But finally, she come off the porch, And I said, Joanne, wore my chair that. She said, well, you gonna listen to me first. I said, no, I didn't come up here to argue with you. I said, I come get my chairs. So finally she got the chairs out of the car and rammed them up against the area these chairs. She said, let me tell you some others. We got the lamp, but the only way you get it be busted over your D head. And she said they're married, but Sam Jr. tell everybody they ain't married. So I don't know.
Well, that's not for me
don't
to
care for
figure
my
out right
life.
now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Smithson.
Thank
you
you,
may
Your
have
Honor.
a seat. What did you yell at him about?
I did.
Joanne, yes, you did. You did. I know you did. You know I know you did? Because I can tell when people are telling me the truth, and he's told me the truth. What were you yelling at him about?
I didn't yell at him, Your Honor. He came up to the front porch. That's when I went outside. And then I said, I've got something I need to talk to you about. And I said, I don't want to hear any more about this oil lamp.
Did you put the chairs in the trunk of your car?
Yes, I did.
Why?
Because I was afraid that with these type of people we're dealing with, they could have said we stole them or anything.
Listen, do you understand what I mean when I say to you that I can tell when people are lying to me, Miss Smithson?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You can tell by their body English, you can tell by their hesitation, you can tell by their shifting, you can tell. I can tell. That's my job. I've been doing it for 35 years. So I can tell that you just made up a story. You were terribly disrespectful to him. There was no reason for you to put his chairs in the trunk of your car. Absolutely none.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Darnell comes behind my car and opens up the door. And after that, I don't remember the hit.
And later today,
You're told that your daughter's lungs are bleeding because of this bird, and you keep the bird November, December, January, February, March, April, May. Where is your head?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Joanne Smithson claims her husband's cousin, Doris Smithson, attacked her, slamming her face into the dashboard of a car. Doris claims Joanne is the family troublemaker.
Now who are you?
Amber.
You're the one with the oil lamp.
No.
Where is the oil lamp?
Well, the oil lamp that they're talking about, I have no idea what oil lamp they're talking about.
Well, let's say any oil lamp, Amber. Let's start with any oil lamp, and I want you to be very clear on this, my dear.
Okay.
I can tell when your mother's lying, and I can tell when you're lying.
Well.
So let's get to this. Do you live at home?
No, I don't.
You live in your own place?
Yes, I do.
Do you have an oil lamp in your
No, I
place?
don't.
Any oil lamp?
No, I have no
Have
oil
you
lamp.
ever seen an oil lamp in your mother and father's house?
I've seen several oil lamps.
How many?
10, 12, maybe.
Okay. Do you know of any ones that you've seen in your mother and father's home that belonged to your grandmother?
I wouldn't know if it belonged to her or not.
So what you're telling me is you know nothing about the oil lamp. All right. Now you can have a seat. You're very lucky. Where's his oil lamp?
This oil lamp does not exist.
Fine. Now, I've already made a decision that you behaved badly with Mr. Smithson. That does not excuse an assault if one took place. Doris, you have to understand that.
too.
So now, Joanne, I want you to tell me what happened on the 16th of April when you were getting some gas.
Okay. My husband and I went to a local market, Bethesda Market. I was sitting in my car, seatbelt on. My husband went inside to get his cold drink because we was on our way to the flea market. Darnell comes behind my car and opens up the door.
The passenger door?
Yes. And I looked up, and it was Darnell. And after that, I don't remember the hit. There's several things I remember, some things I don't remember.
Do you have photographs of your injuries?
I have a diagram, photograph from the emergency room.
The answer is you do not have photographs.
No.
You have medical records.
Right.
Good, I'll see the medical records. Anybody have a police report?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
I've got two. The day of the assault and also the revenge assault against me over the lamp that I was cleared of.
What?
The same day, she and her father took out a revenge warrant against me over
I never
a
heard
lamp.
of a revenge warrant.
Well, it is.
No,
Okay.
there's
no
not
such
one.
thing as a revenge warrant.
Then what is
They
it?
filed a complaint against you.
Okay. The same day that the assault happened.
Well, there is absolutely no issue as to whether you were assaulted or not. You were, in fact, assaulted.
Also, I was.
Shh.
Okay.
Mr. Smithson,
Yes, ma'am.
step up here, sir. You filed a complaint with the police.
I did not.
Well, your daughter did. And the most important thing is that when the police officer questioned you, you told the police as follows, because this is in the police officer's own language. Mr. Smithson, that's you, said that when he returned home, that he told his daughter Darnell about Joanne's actions and abusive language and remarks that were directed towards him, that you told your daughter. According to Mr. Smithson, Darnell said that when next she saw Joanne, that she would whoop her. And from his testimony, she did. Did your daughter say that to you?
I didn't even see my daughter that day, Your Honor.
Listen to me. Whether it was that day or the next day, you told the police. You wouldn't have lied to the police, would you,
No,
Mr.
I would
Smithson?
not.
Either you told the police that your daughter said she was going to whoop Joanne, or the police officer is lying. Which one do you think
I'm
it
not
is?
going to say the officer's lying, no.
Good.
I will
I'm
not.
glad you wouldn't say that,
I
Mr.
would not.
Smithson. Sit down now. Okay. Now I'm going to hear you, Doris, because you see,
Yes, ma'am.
I know when people are lying, like Joanne here,
Yes.
but I can read medical records, and I know she was assaulted.
But not $4,000 worth. I have one.
I want to
also
tell you
here.
something.
All right, now, now.
Not $4,000 worth. How much do you think it's worth when somebody hits you in the face?
Well, I really never hit her.
Yes, you did.
All I did
dear.
was just, she come out of her car. Nobody seen me hit her.
I didn't ask whether
I was
anybody. I saw the
walking out of
medical. Listen to
there.
me. I saw the medical records. She was hit in the face.
Okay.
Okay.
I was also scratched right here.
Did she go to your car?
No, I live right across the store. I'm going to the store. They're already there. And she hollers at me first, "Hey, you." And I said, oh, Lord, here's Joanne. You know, she starts coming out of her car. I calmly just set her right back down in her seat.
That's worth $4,000, madam.
Well, it
Because
could
what you're
be.
doing is fibbing to me.
Joanne Smithson claims her husband's cousin, Doris Smithson, attacked her, slamming her face into the dashboard of a car. Doris claims Joanne is the family troublemaker.
Doris, A, medical records don't lie. Diagrams of her injuries don't lie. Listen, pay careful attention. Because you were angry that your father was disrespected by Miss Big Mouth over here.
Well, if
There-
she
I'm
was
speaking.
hurt-
I'm speaking.
Okay.
Without any just cause. Because I do have a feeling that she's a troublemaker. I believe that.
Yeah.
Because I think that probably a lot of things that were sold, things that might have had sentimental value to both brothers, should have been, before you sell them to strangers, you say, listen, would you like something of Mom's? Would you like something that's been in the family for a long time? That's what decent people do, Joanne. And if you didn't do that, and if your husband didn't do that, that means you're not decent people. Do you understand? However, that doesn't mean you can put your hands on her. So, the fact that she disrespected your father, and the fact that you did say to him, next time I see her, I'm going to whoop her, the fact that you did it is going to cost you $4,000. Judgment for the plaintiff, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I run to her car. I jumped in there. I jumped on her and I grabbed her like that. And if she jumps on him again, I'll do it again.
This is such a dysfunctional family.
All of our families together, they're the only one that's out of the family.
I don't even associate with these people.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Smith versus Franks. Step forward.
Amber Smith is suing her sister, Vanessa Franks, for selling her cockatoo and keeping the proceeds.
Miss Smith, this is your sister.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, this case is not going to take long, Byrd. Don't get comfortable, because I quite frankly don't understand what the defense is in this case. You sold your sister a bird, an exotic bird. What kind of bird was it?
She was a Moluccan cockatoo.
And you charged her how much for the bird?
Only $700 for the bird in the cage, which is normally worth a lot more.
Please. That's not complicated. You charged her $700.
Yes.
And she was going to pay you
Yes.
little bits. And she paid you some. How much did she pay you?
She paid me $100 in November.
And then she stopped making payments.
Yes.
Your sister says that you were supposed to come and get the bird because her daughter had some sort of an illness, that she couldn't be in the house with the bird. She told you to come and get the bird. You didn't come and get the bird, so she sold it.
Yes, ma'am.
And sold it for?
$500.
$500. And you took the $500 and you?
Put it in the bank.
That's my question, Miss Franks. If you sold the bird,
Yes, ma'am.
why do you think you're entitled to sell the bird and keep the money instead of paying your sister for the bird?
Okay, in November, my daughter's lungs bled in November of 2004. I called my sister on the phone, stated to her, I'm either going to have to sell this bird or you can have the bird back. She said, we want the bird back, don't sell the bird. They came for Thanksgiving. You taking the bird? No, we're not taking the bird. Christmas, are you taking the bird?
Miss Franks, is what you're telling me, just put your hand down. Is what you're telling me that your daughter's lungs were bleeding because of the bird?
Right.
And you kept the bird in your house between November, when your daughter was diagnosed with this illness?
No, she's been diagnosed since birth.
Well, between the time you were told to get rid of the bird in November and you kept the bird till Christmas?
The bird was actually in my home until right at the beginning of May.
What town do you live in?
Milledgeville, Georgia.
Anywhere in the state of Georgia, do they have an animal rescue?
Not
of course
where
they
I
do.
live, no.
I don't care where you live or not. They do have trees in Georgia, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah, if my child had bleeding lungs, and doctor told me in November that I had to get rid of this bird because this bird was causing my child's lungs to bleed, and if I couldn't find someone to take that bird, it is warm in Georgia, isn't it?
For part of the year, yes.
Well, I would hope that it was the right part of the year, because that window would be open, that bird would be gone. I don't understand where you're coming from. You're told that your daughter's lungs are bleeding because of this bird. And you keep the bird November, December, January, February, March, April, May. Where is your head?
She's my sister at the same time.
Please don't speak. Okay. Listen to me, Miss Smith.
Yes.
Your sister acknowledges that she told you she was going to give you $700 for the bird.
Yes.
I haven't heard anything cogent as to why she should be able to sell a bird that she didn't pay for and not pay for it. Anybody hear a reason? Hearing none? Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Yes, this case number 244 on the calendar in the matter of Perriman versus Brewington. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Miss Perryman, your complaint is rather lengthy, as is your former husband's answer. So let me see if I can simplify what I perceive to be the issue in this case. You and the defendant were married and have 2 children?
3.
3 children. And you live where?
In Colorado.
And Mr. Brewington moved to Alaska.
Yes, ma'am.
And you had an agreement with him that you would split the cost of visitation with the children to Alaska. And Mr. Brewington, did you come down and pick up the children?
Yes, I did.
And it was your arrangement with your former wife that she would pay for the other half of the ticket before you did that?
Yes.
But then at some point, according to you, you changed your mind.
Yes.
Because she said to you, I don't have the money to pay for the ticket. If you want to see the children, you have to pay for the ticket. I have no money for that.
Yes.
Right.
I paid for the whole ticket.
So you said to her, fine, I want to see the kids. I want the children to visit with me in Alaska, so I will pay for the ticket both ways. But at some point during the course of the visitation, you changed your mind. And you called her and said, if you want the kids back, you better get a ticket.
First, he said, if I want the kids back, I have to come get them myself.
And you said to him?
I told him he was going to bring my kids back, or I was calling the police.
And he said?
Call them.
Does that sound right?
No.
Close.
Close, but not right.
Close. Because she had changed the rules by saying, I can't afford to send the kids and pay for half the ticket. You said, okay, I'll take care of it. And at some point, then you changed your mind and wanted her to pay what she had agreed to pay in the beginning, right?
I didn't ask her to pay for half the tickets. I just asked her to either come up and get the children or to get me a ticket back the day I flew to Denver with them.
Well, listen. Let's not split hairs, sir. If she wanted the children back and she has custody of the children, Then you told her to either come get him yourself, which means that she'd have to pay for her ticket back and forth, right?
Yes.
Or pay for my ticket, right?
Yes.
Because the kids are too small to travel by themselves.
Yes.
So far correct? And Miss Perryman says that the reason she didn't have any money is because you don't pay child support.
That's incorrect.
How much does he pay in child
I'm
support?
supposed to pay $488 a month. It's hit and miss each month.
Just a second. $488 per month, 3 children. Okay. What kind of work do you do in Alaska, sir?
I don't work. I'm a full-time student.
Well, if you're a full-time student, how do you pay this $488 a month?
I don't. I'm working with the state of Alaska now. As previous, I was working with Colorado to get it lowered.
Well, how old are you, Mr. Brewington?
I'm 28.
What makes you think you can be a full-time student after you fathered 3 children?
I'm a disabled vet going to school through Chapter 31 Voc Rehab.
I don't care if you're a Purple Heart winner. What makes you think that somebody who looks like you, who's built like you, who eats like you do, can stop working and go to school full-time when you've got 3 children to support? What gives you the right to do that?
I did it. That's what I need to do to get a better career so I can support my children better.
Well, that's all very, very nice. You expect them to go into a state of suspended animation while you get your act together?
No, but I didn't expect Mrs. Perryman over there to quit her job and to be in school as well.
Somebody is feeding your children. Who is it?
The state.
How old are your children?
3, 6, and 8.
What was so interesting about Alaska that caused you to move from Colorado to Alaska?
I was born and raised in Alaska.
And where did you live when you were married to Miss Perryman?
We lived all over. Oklahoma, Alaska, California, and then Colorado.
And how long did you live in Colorado?
About 3.5 years,
So Colorado was the home state of your family.
I guess.
Didn't it strike you, Mr. Brewington, that if you moved to Alaska, even though it's a place that you grew up, it would be difficult for you to have regular contact and visitation with your children?
Yes, I understood that.
And you were willing to make that sacrifice?
Yes, I was.
And you were willing to make that sacrifice on behalf of your children as well?
I call my children almost every day.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
How much was the plane ticket?
$159. Plus, we had to drive 4 hours away to go pick up the kids in Denver, which was gas, and we spent one night in the hotel the night before because the plane arrived a little bit before 7 in the morning.
You've got a lot of little expenses here, including, according to you, mental anguish. I can't give you mental anguish. Listen, he didn't turn into this overnight.
No, he didn't, but
okay? And you were not smart enough not to have the second child with him and the third child with him. Should have, figured it out right away. Any man that has 3 children that can move thousands of miles away from their 3 young children because he wants to pursue a career in education is not somebody that I would father 3 children with.
He was a responsible father up until November of 2001, and
And then what happened?
He told me that he didn't feel the same way, and everything went downhill from there.
I don't care if he doesn't feel the same way about you. He's got 3 children.
Well, it turned his look on everything, I guess.
Well, when was the last time you received $488 from him?
The full amount of $488 would be July of 2003. He paid a little bit over to catch up because for the previous 3 months there was no payment at all.
When was the last time you received any money from him?
June of this year, it was $50.
Okay. Where do your parents live?
In Alaska.
You live with them?
Yes, I live with my mother.
Mr. Brewington, I don't think you're doing the right thing, sir. I think you ought to do a lot of soul searching.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today...
Are you calling each other bad names?
Yes.
So Mr. Ewan came out?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said, "You ugly MFers need to stop making all this noise before I go get my shotgun."
Did you have a shotgun?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Christy Perryman says ex-husband Jason Brewington owes for the cost of a plane ticket. Jason says Christy owes him for the cost to visit his children.
Now, do you have a legal agreement that provides that you pay for half of the cost of the children to go to visit him?
In September of 2002, I agreed to do that on document and with the court. In August, the beginning of August, I have it stated that the magistrate ruled that I am released from all financial obligation of visitation.
Right.
And I have that paperwork.
Right. He wants to see his children? Let him get a job and make enough money to get a ticket to come and pick them up. And if he wants to take them to Alaska to see his parents, which would be a nice thing, fine. Other than that, I think that you're absolutely nuts. to do it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $159. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think it was fair.
I think I was robbed.
She knows that I'm not responsible to pay for the plane tickets.
She was required to pay for half the plane ticket. She never did.
He doesn't just think I deserve any money from him.
She just wants money.
He needs to have a better relationship with his kids, all three of them.
Every opportunity I have, I spend time with them.
They are the victims.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Yuan versus Todd Lamb. Step forward, please.
Mechanic Stanley Ewan is suing his neighbors, Vanessa Lamb, her son, 11-year-old Javante Peck, Victoria Todd, and her son, 11-year-old Devon Todd, for throwing eggs at his apartment. The kids say Stanley threatened them with a shotgun.
Mr. Ewan, it is your claim that these boys egged your apartment.
Yes, they did.
Caused some damage, and you want to be compensated for the damage.
Yes, they do.
And their mothers say that you just don't like children, especially their children, and that you threatened the boys with a shotgun, and that there wasn't any damage to your apartment. Right?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Ewan, you live in an apartment complex?
Yes.
Do these boys and their families live in the same complex?
No.
Okay. Now, when did this incident happen with the eggs?
June 28th, about 9:30 in the morning.
Tell me what happened at 9:30 in the morning, Mr. Ewan.
Well, at 9:30 in the morning, I had a friend over. We're watching a ball game. Heard a commotion on the other side of our fence, and there was about 8 kids fighting and harassing, saying bad names and stuff. I went
saying
out.
Bad names to whom, sir?
Well, each other. You know,
So they were calling each other names and
fighting, pushing, shoving.
Now, was this in your complex or was this in their complex?
It was in their complex.
Okay.
I went outside and told them to break it up and go home, and they did so.
Did you have a shotgun?
No.
Did you say anything else to them?
Not at that time. I went back in. About 10 minutes later, 4 of them came back and threw the eggs. Came
Where
over the
were they
hedge.
when they threw the eggs, sir?
On their side of the property, on the other side of the hedge.
Did you see these 2 boys?
Yes, I did.
Did they throw eggs?
Yes, they did. Got pictures, and I got
I'd like to see the
estimates.
photographs, please.
Oops.
Was your door open, sir?
My sliding door was open, my screen door.
So the eggs got on your carpet.
Got on the carpet, got on the couch, on the front of the couch there,
Okay.
and it also got on the paint.
Do you own this house?
No,
You're a renter.
I rent.
Who paid for the outside cleaning?
I hasn't been cleaned yet. That's just an estimate.
It has not been, but you don't own the outside.
No,
Okay. Why didn't somebody just go out there and hose it off?
I tried to hose it off.
Well, it doesn't look like anybody tried to hose it off, sir, because it's still
Well, after
dripping.
the pictures, I did try to hose it off.
And what happened?
The egg, it was so hot out that day that the egg dried onto it, and when I tried cleaning it off, it stripped the paint off.
Okay. How old are you?
11.
What's your name?
Javante.
And how old are you?
11.
Your name?
Devon.
Do you remember the day that Mr. Ewan is talking about?
Yes.
Tell me what happened.
All right. We were right over by the fence, and Javante and another kid was fighting.
What were they fighting about?
I can't remember, but they were like arguing. They weren't putting their
What
hands
were you
on.
arguing about, Javante?
We were arguing about who can knock who out and this and that.
So you were talking, I mean, that's not smart. Why were you angry at these other people?
Yeah.
And were they angry at you?
Yep.
And were you calling each other bad names?
Yes.
So Mr. Ewan came out?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said, "You ugly MFers need to stop making all this noise before I go get my shotgun."
So what did you do?
So then all of us boys went over to our houses and got eggs and went over there and threw eggs at his house.
Why did you throw eggs at his house?
Because what he was being racial.
He was being racial.
Yeah.
So that's the way you resolved it. You went over, got some eggs, and you decided to vandalize his house.
Yep.
What'd you do?
I got an egg, and when they started throwing the eggs, he came out. I dropped my egg and ran.
So now I'd like to hear from the mothers. Who wants to speak first? Go ahead.
Okay, as I was getting out my shower, I had about 3 kids run up in my house yelling and screaming where this man put a shotgun on them.
Well, now you know that wasn't true. That was a lie.
I wasn't there.
Just a second. But now you know that was a lie.
No, I don't know that.
Sure you do, because Mr. Ewan says it wasn't true, and your boy says it's not true. He says Mr. Ewan didn't pull a shotgun on him. Mr. Ewan told him to get out, or he was going to get a shotgun. Isn't that what you said?
Yeah.
So he didn't pull a shotgun on him. He threatened him. Got it?
I still, like I said, I wasn't there, so I do not know.
Well,
I've had
want
other
you
kids.
pay
The other
attention.
kids said.
Speaking. Pay attention to what I'm saying. Your son says, you don't think your son is a liar, do you?
He will.
Well, you don't think that he would lie to make it appear that Mr. Ewan was a nice guy, right?
No.
If anything, he would lie and say he was a terrible guy, right?
And he has.
Just a second. Just a second. So when he says to you, and to me, that Mr. Ewan didn't take a gun, Mr. Ewan said to him, you don't get out of here, I'm going to get a shotgun. You think that that's the truth? You think that Mr. Ewan brought out a shotgun? That's what you think? Is that what you think?
I didn't find out till a couple days later, and my son said that no one pulled a shotgun. He said that
nobody pulled a shotgun, right? You saw a shotgun?
I saw the end of it.
You're full of baloney. You're full of baloney.
Don't even have a gun.
You said there was in the pawn shop.
Oh, yeah,
Listen,
I had a pawn shop.
Listen to me very carefully. Your son says that he never pulled a shotgun, that he threatened him. So they came back, you were in the shower, you heard what you thought you heard, and what did you do?
Got all the other kids' moms, went over to the managers, addressed the issue for us and pulling the gun, called the police. The police came out, and then they talked to him, and then they talked to us, and the other, it's another guy that's involved in this as well. Anyway, to make a long story short, he was concerned as far as they can't search my house because they don't have a search warrant.
Listen to me. Don't worry about Mr. Ewan.
I'm just saying.
Don't worry about Mr. Ewan. So your son came to you complaining. If you listened carefully with both ears,
he wasn't the only one.
I'm speaking. Your son came to you, and if you were listening carefully, he said that he was going to get a shotgun, because you say he wouldn't lie about it. And he says he never pulled out a shotgun. He said he threatened he would get it. Isn't that what you just said to me?
Yeah.
Right.
That's.
Shop speaking. Try to put your listening ears on. Didn't you ever say that to your son? Put on your listening ears. But while you were getting the other mothers together, the boys went and got eggs and went back to his house and egged his house. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you think that was right?
No.
So what did you do about it? That's not a hard question. Your son went and vandalized somebody's house. What did you do about it?
He was disciplined.
Tell me how.
No sweets, cookies, pop, restriction, not...
Oh, come on. I don't believe a word of that.
Well, I mean, that's my form of discipline.
I don't believe that you disciplined him. Javante, let me tell you this. When you fight with people, that's bad. So if you were fighting with people that day, and who was going to knock who out, that doesn't mean you're too intelligent. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Because that's not the way you start playing 9 o'clock in the morning. I assume school was over, so that you had nothing to do. When you have nothing to do, what you're supposed to do is not fight. Find something to occupy your time. Maybe your mother will take you to the planetarium. 9:30 in the morning, she was just taking a shower. She should get up a little earlier in the morning if she has young children to make sure that they are adequately supervised. Now, when you do something wrong, you're supposed to acknowledge that you did something wrong. It's not my job to tell this man who's how old?
50.
50? How to conduct himself? And if this man who's 50 says something untoward to your children, their response is not to go over and vandalize his property. That's not the proper response. He's too old for me to deal with. They're not. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me. If somebody is stupid and says something to you that you don't like, your response is not to hurt them, right?
Yes.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $457, which is the amount that I have here in bills. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may. Your Honor, this is case number 231 on the calendar in the matter of Kubas versus Arlene. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Miss Arlene, are you a licensed hypnotherapist?
I'm a certified hypnotherapist, yes.
Certified. Is that what they do?
Yes, there's not a license for hypnotherapy in this state.
Is that the state of California?
The state of California, yes.
And how long have you been a certified hypnotherapist?
For 9 years, Your Honor.
According to what I've read in your complaint, Ms. Cubas, you sought the defendant's services in order to help you stop smoking.
That's correct.
And you are suing her because not only didn't you stop smoking, but you say that she should be responsible for other stress that she put you through because of some vision that she had while she was treating you. Where did you find Miss Arlene?
I found her out of the Yellow Pages, Your Honor.
How long have you been a smoker?
Probably 45 years.
So you figured it was time you stopped?
My sister died of cancer last year, and I desperately wanted to quit. And so I discussed it with my husband about going to see a hypnotherapist because I had been under so much stress and wanted to quit so badly that out of sheer desperation, I called this ad in the paper.
Do you have the copy of the ad?
Yes, out of the...
Please.
Yes, I do. I explained to her my situation, and she told me that it was $295 and that she was 95% effective. The other 5% is usually people that smoke 3 to 4 packs a day. So I felt pretty secure in going to her, and she said, I have an appointment open at 12:30. This was at 11 o'clock. She said, can you be here? I live 50 miles away, but yes, I did go. And when I got there, I asked her how long had she been a hypnotherapist. She said 8 years. After this discussion, she asked me if I wanted to go ahead with it, and I said yes. So she proceeded to hypnotize me, and during this hypnotizing thing, the only thing she said pertaining to smoking was, when I want a cigarette, say to myself, I think I want a cigarette, but not now. Maybe later. Instead, I'll have a handful of grapes. Well, Your Honor, I ate so many grapes, I was having other problems.
Just a second. Just a second. She never promised you anything other than to stop smoking.
She promised me I wouldn't gain weight.
No.
But anyway, she told me I had, after this session, she told me I had to give up Dr. Pepper, sugar, cream, milk, and I drink lots of water. I have a list of the things she told me to take.
Just a second. What date was that, by the way?
That was on July 12th.
Okay. So on July 12th, you went there, and you were smoking up until the time you got to her office, I assume.
Yes.
When you left her office on July 12th, you tell me that you ate a lot of grapes the next day.
Oh, yes.
But you didn't smoke.
Yes, I did smoke, Your Honor.
How much did you smoke the next day?
I smoked maybe 6 or 8 cigarettes.
Which is a lot less than you would smoke previously.
Yes, but I...
Okay. When were you supposed to go back?
I was to go back Wednesday on the 13th, or 14th. I was to go back July 14th.
So supposed to skip a day. Did you go back on the 14th?
Yes, I did.
What happened when you went back on the 14th?
I had complained to her about my bladder hurting me, and I had told her that I was still smoking. And she said it was probably the toxins emptying out of my body that was bothering my bladder. And she told me that I looked scattered. And I said, it's because I'm still smoking and I'm upset. And she said, well, it's going to take more than the 2 sessions, and it'll take a week. She said, give me a chance. So she calmed me down and took me back and did the same thing almost that she did the first session. So I left there feeling a little more calmer, and I was to go back the following day on a Thursday. And when I got there that time, Your Honor, we went back to the therapy room, and the first thing she did was ask me if I knew of anyone with a man with an oval face, a beard, long hair, and lots of wrinkles. And I said, no. And she said, well, could it have been your deceased son? And I said, no, my son was young, and he didn't have a beard. And she said, well, I didn't get a real good look, but she said it may have just had a mustache, because I told her my son had a mustache. The day before, she did something to me during hypnosis, of doing something with her hands. I didn't quite understand what it was. She said she realized that she had not done my feet, so she went back to do my feet. And she said when she went to do my feet, she turned and she saw this image that she had described to me, grimacing and cringing in my solar plexus.
In your stomach?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And she said she wasn't going to tell me, but she talked to her psychic daughter, and her daughter said she felt like she should discuss this with me. Well, before the last session, she asked me if it was possible during this hypnosis session if we communicated with this entity. And I said, well, sure. I mean, I felt, what the heck's going on? I said, what could it be? So during hypnosis, she would tap me on the forehead, and she'd say, now ask this person who they are and why they're here. So I said, who are you and why you're here? And no answer. And she tapped me again for this person to answer me. And this just went on, and tapping me. So at the end, I asked him, would he go away or something like that. I couldn't remember it all, but when I came out, she said, well, he did say he would go away. So we got up, the session was over. I was sort of dazed, and I even hugged her and invited her to my home. And then when I got to my truck, I just sat there for a while, and I was thinking, my God, I'm possessed.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
There are some people that believe in these psychic sightings and some people that don't.
It frightened me.
I've never had that happen to me.
And later today,
He threw Mrs. Yeager's son up in the air, and he didn't catch him. And he fell and broke both arms.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Frida Cuba says hypnotherapist Donna Arlene failed at getting her to quit smoking. She wants her money back.
Miss Cubas, what is it that you are suing Miss Arlene for?
Originally, Your Honor, I asked her for a refund so I could go to another hypnotist, someone that would hypnotize me to stop smoking and not do psychic things to me.
And what did she say?
I wasn't the one that asked her for the refund. My husband did.
You asked her for the refund?
Yes, I...
When did you call her, Mr. Cubas?
I believe I called her on the 21st of July, Your Honor.
Tell me about your conversation.
I explained to her that Frida was very upset and very frightened by the prognosis that she had given about the entity that was in her solar plexus. And I told her we didn't believe in that kind of thing, and I told her that I felt that Frida was entitled to a refund.
And what did she say to you?
She then said, look, I don't give refunds.
Okay. All right, Miss Arlene, I don't believe that based upon the fact that Miss Cubas may still be smoking, that she is entitled to her money back. She didn't guarantee you that you would stop smoking. She said there's a 95% chance. Well, you may fit into that 5%. Certainly, those people that use gum, patches, pills, all the things that you can get by either prescription or over the counter, if they were 100% effective, then nobody in this country should or probably would be smoking. But the truth of the matter is, some people are successful with them and some people are not. It depends upon a lot of variables. The only question that I have is you signed on for hypnotherapy to stop smoking. I want you to get to this vision.
Okay. Well, on the second session when Frida came in, we did the session, and many times if I feel a person is troubled or there's negative energy around them, I do a clearance with my hands just of the energy around them before they leave. So I did that. I just brought my hands just to clear the energy around them. Okay? So I just did the clearing the energy, and as I came down to the end and went to brush away from her feet, I saw this entity. It just was, what I saw was just a circle with a man's face that looked grimacing. And it kind of surprised me because I've never had that happen to me. So when I went home that evening, I explained it to my daughter who has psychic abilities, and I just said, you know, something happened today and I'm concerned about it. So I explained to her what I saw, and she goes, I wonder why they would choose to show you that there. And I said, I don't know. And she goes, well, maybe you can help her by telling her, but ask her a couple of questions first. Ask her if she's been having a lot of pain in her solar plexus. Before that, when we first had the consultation, she had shared with me that she had used a psychic over the internet before, and we had talked about being an open spirit. So I asked her these questions, and then I told her, I said, I saw something, and I'm a little reluctant to say anything to you, but since we've talked about this before, I thought maybe it might help you if I shared it with you. It's up to you. And she goes, well, sure. go ahead. We're both spiritual people. And I said, okay. So I explained to her what I'd seen, and I said, you know, I can't tell you anything about it because it's never happened to me before. I don't know. And
you weren't at that point, and certainly Ms. Cubas doesn't suggest at that point that you were using this as a ploy to get you to become a steady psychic customer.
I'm not sure of that, Your Honor. She did tell me I could come back.
That's different. Did she or did she not, Ms. Cubas, say to you, this has never happened to me before?
I don't remember her saying that because she frightened me so badly.
Okay. You did, Ms. Cubas, however, tell me that she asked you whether you wanted her to share with you this vision that she had had, and you said yes.
Yes, that's correct.
And you also, according to you, when you left, hugged her. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So what is it that makes you suggest, I mean, there are some people that believe in these psychic sightings and some people that don't. I can't put myself into the head of either one of those groups. But what is it that suggests to you that Miss Arlene was a charlatan?
Because I did not go to her for psychic treatment or that. I went to her to stop smoking. Not once during that session did she say anything to me about not smoking except to eat the grapes when I felt like not having a cigarette. Nothing was ever suggested to me to quit smoking or any suggestions or anything. When she told me about this psychic thing, she said, "Do you know anyone with an oval face, wrinkles, long hair, and a beard?" And I thought to myself,
you already told me that. That's
no.
Not you already told me that. Ms. Cubas, you don't have a viable lawsuit against the defendant. She is a certified hypnotherapist. She's been practicing for 8 years. That's her treatment plan. It didn't work for you. And the fact that she had this vision, I assume it was legitimate, or at least she perceived it to be legitimate. She asked you whether you wanted her to reveal it to you. You said yes. She did not follow through. I assume that she told you that her daughter has psychic ability. She discussed it with her daughter. Her daughter said it's a good thing to share with her. She shared it with you. She asked you, I'm speaking, she asked you whether or not you wanted her to share it with you. Have you gone to another hypnotherapist since?
No.
No. Are you still smoking?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, we're talking about a long time ago. How come you didn't go to somebody else?
Because it frightened me. I wanted to wait to see if I could get to find somebody reputable or that wouldn't do the psychic. Your Honor, she did not ask me anything except if I would like to communicate with this thing after she told me about it.
Ms. Cubas, 2 seconds ago you told me that you didn't remember. Now what you're telling me is you remember, and what she said to you was, do you wish me to find out what this person is, who this person is? And you said, yes.
And this was after
just a second. And you said, yes. You didn't say to her, no, I don't believe in that stuff. I think there's a lot of baloney. I'm here to stop smoking. You said,
yes.
Yes. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Pardons are excused. You may step out.
That's one of the best ways to quit smoking.
When I wanted a cigarette, just say,
play a better game of golf.
I think I want a cigarette.
Get rid of fears, phobias.
But not now, later.
Pass tests, do public speaking.
I think I'll have a handful of grapes.
I never told her to eat grapes.
Well, how many grapes can one person eat before they start having other problems?
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Yeager versus Sutton. Step forward, please.
Operations trainer Brenda Yeager is suing construction worker Albert Sutton for medical bills and pain and suffering on behalf of her 8-year-old son, Jacob. Brenda says Jacob broke both of his arms when Albert threw him in the air and dropped him.
Why, Mr. Sutton, I hardly know what to say to you, sir. Byrd, 30 seconds or less. I assume that this is the young man who was injured. They were playing a game, some sort of a game in a park. Miss Yeager is going to tell me, what kind of game was it?
Soccer practice.
Soccer practice. And Mr. Sutton has a child?
Yes.
Who was also at the soccer practice. And during a break in the activity, Mr. Sutton was playing with the kids. He is not a bad man. He is not an evil man. He's not a malicious man. He's just, let me be kind, short-sighted. So he was throwing his son up in the air, right?
Yes.
And when he got finished throwing his son up in the air and catching him, he threw up Mrs. Yeager's son. I mean, he didn't throw up Mrs. Yeager. He threw Mrs. Yeager's son up in the air. And he didn't catch him. And he fell and broke both arms. That's what happened. Yes, ma'am. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And he was in casts, and he was out of commission for a while. When did this happen?
October 28th, 2003.
And Ms. Yeager is suing Mr. Sutton for $5,000 for both their out-of-pocket medical expenses and for pain and suffering. So now that I've given you the backdrop, because this is not difficult, the facts were not difficult, they were almost conceded by the parties, Mr. Sutton, I will hear you.
When my son had his break, he asked me to throw him up in the air. I caught him. Other kids saw it. They asked their parents if they could do it. I threw up 4 or 5 other kids before I got to Jacob. Jacob, I threw up. He pushed off my chest. I couldn't catch him or get to him as quick as possible. And that's when he fell and hit the ground. But he asked his dad for permission, because my son even saw him go over and ask him and hurt him.
Did you give permission to Mr. Sutton to throw your son up in the air?
No, ma'am.
Tell me your name.
Matt Rice-Beckley.
What did you hear, Matt?
I heard Jacob walk up to his dad, and he asked his dad, he said, "Dad, could that guy throw me up?" And his dad said, "Yeah."
Okay, I like analogies. Let's say you were a very experienced archer. And what you used to do with your son was you would have him sit under a tree and put an apple on top of his head. And split the apple in 2 with your bow and arrow. And your son was used to that. And he would sit there very quietly, very still, and you thought it was okay to do that. And then Jacob said, "Oh, I want to do that." And let's say I believe your son, which I don't, that he heard him go over to his father and said, "Could I sit under a tree and let Mr. Sutton put an apple on top of my head and try to knock it off with an arrow?" And his father, in some psychotic break, said, "Sure." And Jacob sat under the tree. He put an apple on his head. Unfortunately, Jacob wasn't as good at it as your son, and he zigged. And you got him instead of the apple. Whose fault would that be? Jacob's?
No, ma'am.
His father's?
No, ma'am.
You get my point? Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
McMahon versus McMahon. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Mr. McMahon, how long have you and the defendant been married?
11 years before separation.
Altogether, how many years have you been married?
20 years.
And how long has it been since the 2 of you lived together?
9.
You have children?
Yes.
How many children?
1.
How old is that child?
He's 17.
Your complaint says that your wife flooded your boat while she was out on the lake. Your boat was out on the lake, and she decided to sort of vandalize your boat while she was in her wave runner. That's what the case is about, that she seized the motor because she flooded the boat, and you want her to pay for the damage to the boat. But I have a few questions before I get there. When I read in your complaint that you and the defendant were separated for almost 10 years, I wondered why 2 people, if they're separated for almost 10 years, are not divorced.
Well, it was filed in 96, and...
Who filed for divorce in 1996?
I did.
Okay.
So it's gone on for mostly assets, whose is what it's worth. It's gone to mediation, status conference hearings year after year. We're presently mediation. They should have the following report. Should be ended.
Are you a very rich man?
No, ma'am.
Are you a very rich woman?
No.
Well, then what are we arguing about?
I don't know.
What are we arguing about?
Well, we had quite a bit of assets.
Like what?
We had a business together. We had been together for 20 years, so...
No, you haven't been together for 20 years. You've been together 11 years.
Well, we lived together for a few years before. But we had vehicles and a lot of assets through our business.
Miss McMahon, how old are you?
I'm 48.
So that at the time that you and your husband separated, you were 39 years old. Is that right? A young woman. And you want a divorce?
Yes.
How old are you?
50.
You have a girlfriend?
Yes.
Is that this lady?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been together?
4 years now.
You have a boyfriend?
Yes, I do.
How long have you been together?
About a year.
It's time.
Yes, ma'am.
I know. You 2 people are taking that very precious window. If you think of it this way, you're close to 50. For almost 20% of your life, you've been feuding. I mean, if you think about it. If you think about the fact that you don't grow up really until you're 20, and you're almost 50, that means for almost a third of your life, you've been feuding. You, a little less than that. Is that ridiculous? Ridiculous! Do you have lawyers?
Yes, ma'am.
You have a lawyer?
Not anymore, because I've spent so much money on attorneys.
Right! Crazy people. All right. Tell me about this flooding of your boat.
Well, as in the police report, we spend a year every year at the river for 10 days.
Who does?
My girlfriend and myself. So on the second day of our vacation, I went for a boat ride in the morning, and the boat wasn't running right, so I was adjusting the idle. The next thing I know, a wall of water hits me, almost knocks me out of the boat, and the engine locks up.
And that was your wife?
Yes.
And did you see how she sprayed your boat and you with a wall of water?
Well, at the time I didn't see it because I was working on the engine, but when everything cleared and settled down, I looked, and there she was on the wave runner with her soon-to-be daughter-in-law. And I yelled at her, I said, "You idiot, you have no idea what you've just done." And she says, "He happens at the river," and drove off.
Nice.
Very nice.
And your boat was damaged?
Very much so, yes.
Tell me about it.
Well, after the bilge pumps came on, we had to bail the water out to keep it from sinking because it's been swamped before by bigger boats and it sank, so she knew what she was doing. We put it on the trailer. We had to walk on the trailer because the engine didn't run.
Have a picture of this boat?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I see it, please? While I'm looking at it, how big is this river?
It's 17 miles long from dam to dam.
So it's a big river.
Yes, Colorado
You just
River.
happened to find yourself in the same place at the same time?
No, the mediator explained to us that he let her know we were going on vacation and weren't available for a court appearance, and I think it was intentional that she was there at the same time we were.
Oh, so you had a court appearance?
Yes, and we canceled because of our vacation and our work schedules. We went to the river, and we missed the court date, and obviously he told her that where we were going to be.
How long in advance was this court date scheduled?
Probably 60 days.
So 2 months?
Yeah.
And you had to pick that time to go on vacation? Don't you want to get this whole process over with?
Oh, I'd love to.
So why'd you go on vacation when you had a court appearance?
Well, because we weren't ready for the status conference hearing. The mediator wasn't ready, wasn't done with his report.
Like what? What did you need?
Well, I needed him to finish his report, and he couldn't finish it in
His
that
report
time.
about what?
About the business assets. We had an auto repair business that lasted a whole year and a half, and Mrs. McMahon thinks it's worth millions of dollars.
And did you sell it?
No. Just closed
Well,
the
what do you
doors
think
on it.
happened to the business?
He actually moved the business to his residence in Carlsbad from our business in Oceanside. The lot that we had there was over an acre lot, so he had plenty of room to do auto repairs.
You're not talking about, you know, Boeing.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He sued me for paternity on our son.
Oh, you thought that it might not be your child?
Biologically, he's not my child. No.
Oh, my goodness, how you people screwed up your lives. I just can't believe it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Steve McMahon says his estranged wife, Cheryl McMahon, flooded his boat, nearly sinking it. Cheryl says the incident was instigated by Steve's anger.
Madam, you're talking about, at best, a little mom-and-pop operation out of his house. Is that what you are holding hope of getting millions of dollars out of?
No. What I hope to is to get a loan paid off that Mr. McMahon made for this business. That was my hopes.
Okay, and is it a loan that you're responsible for?
Both of us are responsible for it.
Have you been paying it?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you been paying it?
Yes, I paid up to 97 or 98.
Well, that's a long time ago. Who's been paying it since 97?
I don't know.
I have.
You have?
Yes.
How much?
It's like $19,000 I've paid against it.
Since 1997?
Yes.
Do you know that?
Well, the loan was only for $20,000, and we paid on it for almost 2 years before that. So I.
Yeah, but you know that could have been interest. You know, now she says
No, there was
she
no
said,
interest. It was
shh. Listen to me. What she says is she just wants to be absolved of at least half of this debt.
May I respond?
Yeah, sure.
This is why we're going through all these years of court proceedings, because all the receipts and checks and canceled, everything we present in the matter of this loan is fraudulent. So it goes on.
Just one second.
On.
You have $19,000 that you said she's paid so far. Anything else owing on the loan?
Yes, ma'am.
How much?
I think it's about $7,000 or $8,000 right now.
What is that, just interest?
It was a 15-year loan, and our payments were $225 a month.
Okay, so the first couple of years you paid Mr. McMahon, forget it. You know, I mean, that's ancient history. Okay? There's this big piece left. Why don't you just cut it in half and say this was a marital debt, over, finished. Pay it, and goodbye. Did you pay a lawyer more than $15,000 over the last 9 years?
Actually, I couldn't answer that question because I haven't got a bill for him, but I'm sure it's going to be expensive.
Ma'am?
What?
It cost him $13,000 to take me to court for paternity.
Take you to court for what paternity?
He sued me for paternity on our son.
Oh, you thought that it might not be your child? Is that what you're telling me?
Biologically, he's not my child, no.
Was that established in the paternity test?
Because the way the law is written in California, if you raise a child over 2 years, he automatically becomes your responsibility.
Have you been supporting him?
Yes.
Well, oh my goodness, how you people screwed up your lives. I just can't believe it. And I have a sense that if I saw you back here in 10 years, you're going to be in the same spot. Just frittering away your whole lives over spite and meanness and nastiness and stupidity. Instead of just putting a period and moving on and saying, listen, I have a chance to have the rest of my life free and clear. Let me just do it. All this is money, and it's not major money. It's just, I've been paying it anyway. Let me just get over it. Here's some money. Here's my half. Goodbye and good luck. Let me have a happy life. Listen, how did it come about that you flooded his boat? You flooded his boat, right?
I did get water on his boat, yes.
Good. Okay. So now you're going to tell me how it came about that you flooded his boat.
Well, on August 13th, and to get back to the vacation, I vacationed out there that week because it's my birthday week every year since Steve and I separated. So he was very aware that I was going to be out there. I had no idea he was going to be out there.
Just tell me why you flooded his boat.
So our son went upriver on the wave runner, came back down and said, Dad's upriver. Can I go up there and ride in the boat? Well, because there's stipulations regarding the girlfriend on visitation, I needed to make sure that it was okay through Steve.
Why? What's wrong with the girlfriend?
Well, there's been drug and alcohol problems.
Well, did you ask your son whether the girlfriend was in the boat?
He didn't see her.
So then his father was alone in the boat. So what'd you have to go up there for?
Well, I needed to make sure that things were appropriate up there.
What does that mean? His father was out on the river in a boat. He's 17 years old.
No, he's 16.
See, he's 16 years old, and he wanted to go on the boat with his father.
Can I respond to that?
No.
Okay.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Steve McMahon claims his wife, Cheryl McMahon, sank his ski boat out of revenge.
Go ahead.
So I went up along with Terry, my girlfriend. There was nobody. The boat was in the water. At that time, I took some pictures of the boat.
Why?
So that I could go back and show the court that the boat was in running operations. We were supposed to have it appraised out, but Mr. McMahon wouldn't agree to that. So we had to get a court order for that.
Just a second. So you just happened to have a camera on your wave runner.
Mm-hmm.
You just happened to have a camera on your wave. Just a second. On your wave runner when you went up river with this lady. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, I always have a camera in there.
Always have a camera. Keep going.
Okay. He wasn't there. I went back down to camp. A little while later, I went for a ride, and I wasn't planning on seeing Mr. McMahon at that time, with Jessica. And we went upriver, and then on our way back, we seen that Steve was sitting in the boat.
Yes.
And I started to go closer to him.
Why?
Well, because I was going to ask him if it was okay for Stephen to be up there. And at that time, when he looked up and seen that it was me, he raised his hand up over his head with a tool or something, like he was going to throw it at it, and he's yelling at us to get the out of there.
Yes.
And so at that point, Jessica was screaming. I was concerned that he was going to hit me with something or hit Jessica. So I turned the wave runner and splashing.
What a baloney
Went back
story.
To
what
him.
a baloney story. I never heard such a baloney story in my life, Miss McMahon. You know, if you spend 10 years of your life angry, men fare better physically when they get when they're angry. Women get all these nasty lines and they get to look much older than their years. If you spend so much of your life being bitter, I suggest you get over it. How much did it cost to fix your boat?
$3,400.80.
How much is the boat worth?
Well, it was appraised at $8,000.
Let me see.
The appraisal or the receipt?
Both.
I don't have an appraisal. Because she had it done, I never got a copy of it.
Just a second. When did you buy this boat?
1976.
Listen to me. I'm not a stupid person. The boat's 30 years old. Show me an appraisal, sir.
I don't have a copy of the appraisal.
How large is this boat?
She can verify the appraisal. Her appraiser did the work.
Just a minute. How large is this boat?
It's an 18-foot. It's a classic V drive. It goes up in value.
A classic.
Goes up in value.
Okay. Let me see the paid bill. How long was your boat out of commission after this flooding?
All summer. The rest of the season.
Had it been running prior thereto?
Oh, yes.
Judge Judy?
Yes.
Can I give you a receipt from, a letter from CarQuest that's stating that that invoice that he gave you is not an invoice that they can locate?
Oh, yeah,
or
I'd love
that
to see
date?
I'd love to see that.
And that they use generated, computer-generated receipts.
Can I see that, please?
I can also show you the...
Show this to the plaintiff, please.
Can I respond to that as well without looking at it? This is brought
Sure
to
can before I give him a call.
Brought to my attention. Go ahead. Brought to my attention this yesterday from the harassing phone calls that she made to CarQuest corporate headquarters. Now, this is the mechanic that repaired the boat who works for CarQuest, but he uses their format for his own receipts. Here's a letter from the mechanic that works for CarQuest.
Just a second. Let me see it.
It's a private individual that was between him and I.
Well, you're talking about this guy.
Yes, has nothing to do with CarQuest.
So what you're telling me now is that despite the fact that you're using CarQuest invoice, CarQuest did not do the work on this boat. Someone who worked for CarQuest did this work for you on his own time.
That's correct.
And just used one of their forms in order to show how much money you spent on the boat. Is that what you're telling me? Is that what you're telling me?
That's the receipt he gave me, yeah.
Is that what you're telling me?
That's the receipt he gave me.
And this is what you're giving me. You didn't tell me that that was the case. You gave me something with a card, which would lead me to believe, sir, that this company prepared this receipt, and that's a lie. Is that right?
I don't know. He gave me the receipt. I don't think
Just
it's a
listen
lie.
to me. You just said to me, this is somebody that didn't do it while they were working for CarQuest. This is somebody who did it on his own time. He just used one of their invoices.
Well, he used it. I didn't use it. It's a discontinued work order from CarQuest that he uses for his own personal use.
You're slippery. Did you take the boat to CarQuest?
No, I took it to his house. But he works for CarQuest. I didn't even think anything about it.
You want to know something?
Yes.
I believe that you spent some money to fix this boat. And I was prepared to rule in your favor. Because I think that she purposely and maliciously damaged your boat. That's what you did. You were angry and you purposely and maliciously damaged his boat. You flooded it. You knew you flooded it. I don't believe your baloney story about making sure that the boat was safe for your 16-year-old son when you went up there with somebody with a camera in hand on a wave runner. People usually don't do that. And you went up there to take a picture, according to you, of the boat in the water because you wanted it for the purpose of appraisal. So I don't believe you. And I believe that you purposely flooded his boat. I think that you presented me with a false document. And people who present courts with false documents don't get cut any slack, Mr. McMahon. You understand me?
Yes, ma'am.
So you're going to pay for this boat yourself. Goodbye.
Parties are on the calendar in the matter of Hale, Stevens versus Gutierrez. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Mr. Stevens, Miss Gutierrez and you used to be an item. You were boyfriend and girlfriend for a while. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you are currently attached to Miss Hale.
I'm currently seeing Miss Hale. That is correct.
According to the complaint that I have, the two of you say that Miss Gutierrez did not accept the breakup well, and she has embarked upon a course of conduct that is harassment. She's vandalized your property. She's repeatedly written notes, spray painted your car, spray painted your house, and you want her to stop this harassment. You have a series of police reports, 7 or 8 of them, over a period of several months. You want $4,000 in damages. Ms. Gutierrez says there is no way that she's responsible for any of the damage that you claim. As a matter of fact, she can prove that to me because she was hospitalized and she had just undergone some major surgery at a time when you claim she was running around spray painting your house. And she is counterclaiming because she says because of your complaints about her to the police, she lost her job. How long were you and Ms. Gutierrez together?
Approximately 26 months.
Did you live together?
No, ma'am.
And when did you stop seeing each other?
We formally broke it off December of 2003. While she was in hospital in January and February, I visited her. It was a life-threatening surgery. During that time, I was very explicit that I didn't want to maintain the relationship as a boyfriend-girlfriend.
You mean right after her surgery?
Correct.
That was in '04, January and February of '04.
Yes.
Okay.
The last time I actually spoke to her about the relationship was probably the earliest part of June.
Well, between January and February and the early part of June, were you together? Did you see each other?
We went on a camping trip in May as friends.
How do you go on a camping trip
well,
with somebody?
We were going to try the experience. We
Listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you go with somebody on a camping trip in May that you're told you don't want a relationship with several months before, and then tell me you went as friends?
The reason was I don't believe that that's usually a healthy thing, but I thought that she would be mature about it.
Be mature about what?
To be able to be a friend after you've been in a deep relationship with someone, and to handle it as friends.
So you decided to handle it as friends by going away on a camping trip together. Now, let me ask you about this camping trip. How many people went on the camping trip?
It was just the two of us.
And did, And did you have one tent or two?
We had one tent.
And did you share that tent, or did you sleep on the sofa?
No, we shared the tent.
Were you intimate during the course of this camping trip?
No, ma'am. We were not.
Is that true?
That's correct. It's kind of hard to do anything in a tent.
Where there's a will, there's a way. So what happened during this trip in May?
Well, we talked about a lot of things. I told her she still had feelings for me and voiced that to me, and I told her that I didn't want to continue, that I wanted to start seeing other people, and I encouraged her to do the same.
How long was this camping trip?
It was just a weekend.
When did you have this conversation with her, on Friday or Sunday?
In regard to?
Not wanting to have a relationship with her anymore.
Well, it had been sort of ongoing. I can't recall it like a specific time.
Your Honor, we never talked about it. We went out and had a good time. The following weekend was Memorial Weekend. I spent the entire holiday weekend with them.
That sound right, sir?
I only recall the camping trip.
Well, let's try to recall the following weekend. She said she spent the entire weekend with you.
I know that what I do...
She's going to be able to prove everything that she says. I want you to trust me, so I want you to think hard. We're not talking about so long ago, sir. You went camping. She says the following weekend was Memorial Weekend, and you spent the entire weekend with him. Is that right? Where?
At his home.
At his home?
Yes.
Not in your home?
Friday through Monday.
You didn't have a tent there where it was difficult?
We slept in the same bed, Your Honor.
Think hard.
I am, Your Honor, and I do not recall that. I'm being completely brutally honest with you, Your
Okay,
Honor.
well, if you don't recall it, she does.
I do, Your Honor.
Okay, so what happened at the end of that Memorial Day weekend, Ms. Gutierrez?
We just had a good weekend. We made a nice steak dinner that night. Always ate underneath his hut. He's got a beautiful yard.
Well, when did he tell you that it was over?
We never talked about it.
How did you find out it was over?
On June 2nd, he was supposed to go with me to a Japanese dinner with a friend of mine, and he backed out. After dinner, I went to the club looking for him.
What club?
It's the Texas Tux.
Is that where he works?
That's where he picks up his women.
Did you find him?
No, ma'am.
When did you speak to him, if at all, for him to tell you that it was over?
A week and a half after he met Annette on June 5th. He was seeing her, but I didn't know anything about it until a week and a half later.
Miss Hale, when did you meet Mr. Stevens?
June 12th.
6/12.
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you meet him?
I met him at the Tux with some friends.
At the Texas Tux?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were immediately attracted to him?
We got along well. Great conversation. Over the next few weeks, we would meet for a drink or dinner or, and that was it.
Did he tell you that he had been in a long-term relationship?
Sure did.
What did he tell you about it?
He had been broke up with her since December 14th.
Okay, that's what he told you?
Mm-hmm.
That he had been out of the relationship for at least 6 months?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you now know that that's not true.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you know that before today?
No, ma'am.
We're getting on with this because I want you to hear this, Miss Hale. Before you put all your eggs in his basket, I want you to understand what you're dealing with.
Okay.
Bad enough that one lady got snookered. You don't want that to happen twice.
And he will.
Shh.
Sorry.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You understand that the lady standing next to you has certain questions to ask you about what kind of character you have.
Well, ma'am, I'm an Eagle Scout, and I've tried to be as forthright honest with her about a lot of these issues.
He never was honest with me. I found that out just recently.
He's an Eagle Scout.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. John Stevens and his girlfriend Annette Hale claim John's ex-girlfriend Janie Gutierrez has been spray painting obscenities on Annette's car.
Now, Mr. Stevens, Miss Hale tells me that you told her that you were in a long-term relationship which terminated in December.
That's when it formally terminated. That's when we had a
That's not what you told me 2 minutes ago, sir.
No, but I'm just saying, what happened, that was the formal end of the romantic relationship. I did have a continued relationship, but it was not a romantic one with Miss Gutierrez.
Well, maybe you weren't romantic, sir. Did you tell Miss Hale that you had been on a camping trip with her?
I told Miss Hale about a lot of...
Did you tell her you had been on a camping trip with her 2 weeks before?
I don't recall if I told her about the camping
Well,
trip.
let's see. Did he tell you about the camping trip?
Yes, ma'am, but I was not aware they were alone. I was aware that there were a lot of people.
Oh, well, tell me about what he told you about the camping trip.
I thought they had gone with friends on a camping trip and that it was strictly friendly and that was it. And she couldn't accept that, and so he told her they couldn't be friends. That's what I was told. Yes.
There isn't a question in my mind, Miss Hale, that on Memorial Day weekend, they spent the weekend together. Because she remembers it down to what they had for dinner, and he just doesn't remember. Exactly. Just doesn't remember that. Could have happened, but he doesn't remember it.
Right.
Okay. Now, Miss Hale, I'd like you to tell me what kind of vandalism you suffered and when.
Okay. The first one started on June 25th. I have police reports.
Can I see it, please?
Pictures.
Was there a word written here? I can't tell what it says.
It starts, but it just never gets to that last letter.
Okay. Well, this happened June 25th. What proof do you have that Miss Gutierrez caused this damage to your car?
Well, I have 2 other police reports. The painting happened 2 other times to my car. I have pictures of it also. And the fact that on July 31st, we were trying to wait up and watch for her since it was becoming every week. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, the dog started going crazy, and she was out in the driveway with a can of spray paint.
But, Your Honor, she neglected to tell you that I got a prank joke from the police officer at 3:30 in the morning. They said that they had a witness for me spray painting the garage in her car, and they told me if I didn't come to the scene and bring my spray paint to the scene, if I had any spray paint, to bring it, otherwise they would arrest me. He made the prank call. So I came up there with the can of spray paint that was never used at 4 a.m. in the morning.
Did you call her?
No, ma'am.
That doesn't sound right to me, Miss Gutierrez.
It is, Judge Judy. They woke me up at 3:30 in the
Where did you
morning.
get a can of spray paint?
I bought 3 cans 6 years ago. It took 2 cans to spray one of my piece of furniture.
What color?
It was a burgundy.
Miss Gutierrez.
But the third paint can I never used. I used both of them on the piece of furniture 6 years ago.
What color was the...
The third time was burgundy.
Can I see it, please?
And the same night, 25 miles away, she painted his garage burgundy. And we have pictures.
Yeah. Some pictures of my garage.
The gold paint was the second time. That was the third with the burgundy on his garage.
What date was this?
That one was July the 16th with the burgundy paint.
Now, Ms. Gutierrez, according to your answer, you say that it was impossible for you to have done this on the 16th of July because you had either just had surgery or you were recuperating from major surgery. What kind of surgery?
I broke my neck in January. I was paralyzed.
Until when?
I just got the machine off the back of my neck last week, and also my PICC line that I've had since January.
Well, that didn't prevent you from getting around in July. You were not bedridden in July.
I was on a machine, and I had home care come 3 times a week.
That doesn't make any sense.
I was restricted to
You're not
working
answering
back
my
home.
question. Were you mobile during the month of July?
Yes, ma'am.
Of course, because at some point in July, you went over to the house at 4 o'clock in the morning, right?
When I got the phone call,
When you got the phone call, you were able to get up out of your house and go over to his house with a can of spray paint. So you were, in fact, mobile. So there was nothing physiologically wrong with you that precluded you from getting into a car and traveling, unless somebody drove you there. Did somebody drive you there?
No, ma'am.
You drove yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Ms. Gutierrez, I would have been very angry with him, too.
But not enough for me to spray paint, Your Honor. I'm not violent.
That's not being violent. Not violent. It's being vindictive. It's a criminal act. It's not per se a violent act. But I don't see why you would want to spray paint her car. She got snookered in by this guy.
I have nothing against her, Your Honor.
Of course not. You shouldn't. The only thing that you both suffer from is from terrible judgment. You understand that the lady standing next to you has certain questions to ask you about what kind of character you have after today.
Well, ma'am, I'm an Eagle Scout, and I've tried to be as forthright and honest with her about a lot of these issues.
He never was honest with me. I found that out just recently.
He's an Eagle Scout.
Doesn't mean I'm perfect.
They're going to take your badges away from you, Mr. Stevens. How much did it cost you to clean up your car?
Well, we kept using different methods to get the paint off, but I've got estimates. It's practically down to the metal because 3 times getting paint off, it takes it away. So I've got 2 estimates and an estimate from Hertz on renting a car while it's getting fixed.
Did you get the paint off your garage door, Mr. Stevens?
Yes, ma'am, I did. I used some chemicals, but it's left it down to taking the top coating off.
So I think you ought to get a can of paint. And while you're painting, I think you should keep repeating to yourself, I cannot tell a lie, I will always tell the truth. I am an Eagle Scout. See what kind of trouble you cause when you're not honest with people?
Ma'am, I've tried to be honest throughout this ordeal.
No. Let me explain something to you, Mr. Stevens. If you told this lady back in January and February that you were no longer interested in a relationship with her, and she could not accept that, that would have been her problem. But if you were waffing around until you found something better and took her away on a camping trip, and then the following weekend either shared her bed or allowed her to share yours with a view towards perhaps I have nothing better to do this weekend, that means that what you are doing is you are playing fast and loose with somebody else's emotions. And that, sir, is very cruel. And then when you meet this lady, you give her a whole bunch of junk, painting a picture to her that is not accurate, because I'm sure that when she was suffering this damage to her car, you were telling her, I don't know what's wrong with her. I broke up with her in December. That's 7 months ago. She just can't accept it. She didn't know that you were leading her on over the course of the next 6 or 7 months, up until a couple of months before this happened. She didn't know that. That's not being honest, sir. And sometimes damage comes from not being honest. So I suggest you go out there and get yourself a can of paint, put on some jeans, and paint your garage doors. You get $1,400 to paint your car. Judgment for the plaintiff, and your counterclaim is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Obviously, there was a relationship that broke apart and someone couldn't let go.
It destroyed me because my plans were to marry him.
I don't think I got the whole truth from either one of them.
Sort of painted me today like I was very untruthful and not upfront and honest.
He lied not only to me, but his new girlfriend.
I feel like I'm a victim in this.
My advice to her is she needs to check out someone's history thoroughly before jumping in bed with them.
I shouldn't have to live in fear where someone's going to come by, destroy my property, and come over at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I hope this is the end of it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Bowman versus Schmelzer, step forward, please.
20-year-old student Elizabeth Bowman is suing her ex-boyfriend, 19-year-old student Mark Schmelzer, for an unpaid cell phone bill and cancellation fees. Mark says all he wants is for Elizabeth to leave him alone.
Miss Bowman, the defendant was your boyfriend for a period of time. During the time he was your boyfriend, you got a cell phone, you signed the contract, you gave him a cell phone, you broke up with him, you got back the cell phone, but you had certain charges on the cell phone, including a turn-in fee for his cell phone and a breach of contract for the service, so you want him to pay for that. That's what the case is about, correct? When did you get the phone?
May of last year.
And when you got the phone and signed the contract, how old was Mr. Schmelzer?
Yes.
17.
17. And why didn't he get a contract?
Because he wasn't 18. You can't unless you're 18.
And why is that?
Can't be held accountable.
Right. You can't be held liable on a contract if you are a minor. And that's why he didn't sign the contract, right?
Correct.
That's why he can't make a contract with you. Do you understand? Yes. Got it? Do you understand that you have no case?
Yes.
Okay, good. Goodbye.
Excuse you. Welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Miss Diaz, the defendant was married to your stepfather. Is that right?
Correct.
And I assume that this was a gentleman who helped to raise you?
Correct.
And he passed away?
Yes.
According to you, he was given a gift during his illness of this quilt.
Correct.
And the quilt is supposed to be yours.
Yes.
You want it. And I will call her your stepmother, says that the quilt is not yours. Anything that would belong to her husband is hers.
Yes.
Right. How long were you married?
14 years.
So this was a long-term marriage?
Yes.
And what was his name?
Anthony Diaz.
How long was Anthony married to your mother?
4 years legally.
So that your stepmother had a much longer-term marriage to Anthony than your mother did, right?
Right.
How did that quilt come into your possession?
Sophia's grandmother made it for...
Sophia, this is Sophia.
Yes. Sophia's grandmother had made it for us for Christmas.
Maternal grandmother or paternal
yes,
grandmother?
her mother's mother.
Okay, is that person here today?
Yes, Your Honor.
You made the quilt?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, why don't you step up?
It's beautiful.
Tell me your name.
My name is Ethel Copenhaver.
This is Copenhaver?
Yes.
When did you make this quilt?
I started in April of 2003.
And you made it for Anthony?
Yes, I did.
And tell me about the moment that you gave it to him. When did you give it to him?
I gave it to him the Sunday after Thanksgiving of 2003 in my living room.
What did you say to him when you gave it to him?
I told him that this was for his early Christmas present And it's to go back to Sophia if anything happened to him because he was very ill.
Well, you understand that you can't make that direction because you can't give a gift with strings, even if I believe that you said that to him.
Yes.
I'm not sure I believe that. Even if you did say that to him, you gave it to him as an early Christmas present.
Yes.
Once you make a gift, it's gone. You can't make a gift with sticky fingers. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
But I assume that you liked Anthony.
Oh, yes. He's been in my life
and
30-something years, yes.
And he was a very nice man.
Oh, definitely.
Did you like his wife?
I only saw her occasionally.
But they were married for 14 years.
Yes.
So I assume that in his final days, she took care of him?
I believe so, yes.
Sophia didn't take care of him?
Yes, she did when he had surgery.
You lived with your father?
No, I did not. I reside in Downey, and they reside in Anaheim. And I would actually, he had surgery, hip surgery. I would come from work during my lunch to take care of him while she would work. And I would come on the weekends.
So you would go lunchtime?
Yeah, during lunch. And on the weekends, I'd come and take care of him because he wasn't able to walk with his hip.
So you came over to see
him?
But she took care of him, right?
Right.
How long was he sick?
He actually got sick worse these last 2 years.
But he was sick for a long time before that.
He had diabetes and hepatitis C.
Now, why do you think you're entitled to this quilt?
Well, my grandma, she's very creative, and I know she puts a lot of time and effort into what she does. Our whole house is filled with quilts. My grandma means a lot to me, and so does, well, we call him Tony, Anthony, who you can call my stepfather, but I don't think you can put a title on someone who loves me, and I love him very much. I thought that me and my mom got together, and maybe Grandma can create something for him, you know. He's not able to walk and get around, and he can hold on to something. You know, regardless of marriage and divorce between my mom and my stepmom, you know, Donna, we welcomed her into our family. My aunts and uncles welcomed her. It was a weird kind of family relationship, but we all worked it out, you know.
Good.
And he was aware that when it was given to him that it can go to me.
If he was aware that the idea was for you to have the quilt, he would have made those arrangements.
Well, she had actually agreed. She said, I would never do anything or take anything away from you. When my dad did pass, items that I've given to him for Father's Day, his birthday, she'd given back to me. And she said after the memorial
that was very nice of her to do that.
Right, I agree.
She doesn't have to do that. The law doesn't tell us she should do that. She is his next of kin, not you. So if you gave your father gifts and Miss Diaz gave them back to you, she didn't have to do that. Those things belong to her. Do you understand that?
I do.
Do you really understand that, or are you just saying I do?
No, I do understand.
They belong to her. And the fact that she gave them back to you suggests to me that she's a nice lady. So why would you sue her for this quilt?
It's actually something that's from my family to him, and knowing that he was ill, he named the quilt after my grandmother, which is Ethel, and that was his quilt that he was laying with, ill with, and those moments I would like to have those.
Well, you can't. Your stepfather died married to somebody for 14 years, somebody who took care of him, who nurtured him. She's not somebody who's denying you a memento of him, a piece of something that he wore, that I don't know whether she gave you jewelry or clothes. What kinds of things did she give back to you at the memorial?
After he had passed, she had given my mom's rings back from my dad.
Just a second. So she gave your mother back jewelry?
Correct.
Something that she didn't have to do.
No.
She did it because she's a good person. Because all the jewelry belongs to her. You understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. What else did she give back to you?
An apron, kind of like a barbecue set, shirts that I've given him, funny slogans and stuff. Just little doodads.
So lots of sentimental things.
Correct.
Things that she felt as if she wanted both you and your mother to have. So other than the fact that you would like to have that quilt and the fact that you have no legal claim to it,
I do have a statement from an officer that said she would clean the quilt and return it to me.
Why did you get an officer involved?
When my mom had called and spoke to her, she was actually going to give me my dad's Ford Ranger truck. Actually, she loaned it to me, and in writing she said after the memorial, because my car was having some troubles, after the memorial we would talk serious about it, and I said okay. She said she would write it over to me. I was like, oh, thank you, you know, that's great. And a couple weeks after the memorial, my mom called and asked her for the status, you know, what about the truck? And she says, I said nothing of the sort. And so I just left it, my mom left it as that, and then said, well, what about the quilt?
So after she said to your mother, I'm not giving her the truck, then what you just said to me was, well, then we said, well, what about the quilt?
Correct.
Now, I got it. See, you just got to keep asking the questions.
Keep plowing away.
Keep plowing away. You're going to get it.
That's right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Why didn't you just leave?
I was backing up, and she kept getting in my face.
So what did you call the police for?
I wanted to get the quilt back.
Now I got it.
And later today,
my daughter over here decides the curfew is 10 o'clock, you get off the phone. She's on the phone with
I'm not talking about curfew. That's not what I'm here about. Listen to me. I'm not a therapist.
I'm sorry.
I don't want to be a therapist.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sophia Diaz says her stepmother, Donna Diaz, won't return a quilt that belonged to her late stepfather.
I just want to know one thing. Before we go any further, you still didn't answer my question. How did the police get involved in this case?
Okay, when my mom asked about the quilt, she said, come pick up your effing quilt, and she hung up. My mom tried to call back, and there was no answer. So I was like, okay, let's drive over there. So we drove over there, and she wasn't at her door. She was at her neighbor's door, which is Christine. And I knocked on Christine's door. Her daughter answered and said, oh, hi, Sophia, because I'm well aware of her as well. Her daughters know me. And she goes, oh, come on in. And I said, hi, Christine. I go, I have a video of Donna's, and Donna said to come pick up our effing quilt. She goes, my friend doesn't want to talk to you. She put Donna in her back room. And I said, she said that I can come pick it up. And then she goes, Christine had actually gotten in my face and said, get out of her house. I said, I'm not doing anything. Your daughter let me in your house.
How did the police get there?
She said she was going to call the cops on me because I was in her house. But her daughter let me in, and I said, you know what, that's okay, because she got face-to-face with me. And I said, I'll call them for you. I'm not doing anything wrong. And her husband was going to force me out of their front door in the apartment.
Why didn't you just leave?
I was backing up, and she kept getting in my face.
So what did you call the police for?
I wanted to get the quilt back.
Now I got it. Did anybody, any other members of their family call you for things that belong to your husband?
Friends had called on behalf of Kathy and asked me to be a good person and give up anything that she wants me to give.
Like what?
Like the quilt, the truck.
Was this before or after you gave her back her jewelry?
After.
Yeah, come on up.
I'm really dying to say something.
Well,
here.
I'll listen to you, madam.
Okay, I'm Sophia's mother, Kathy.
I understand who you are.
I don't feel that she has the right, because we did give it to Tony, with an exception that if anything were to happen to him...
I just explained to you, you cannot do that. Do you understand? You cannot give a gift with a rubber band on it. If Tony, who was the recipient of the gift, wanted his stepdaughter to have the quilt, was he lucid when you gave him the quilt?
He was very ill at the time.
Was he lucid is my question.
I don't know what that means, Your Honor.
Was he aware of his surroundings?
Yes.
If he was aware of his surroundings, then what he does is he creates a document. And a document says what and how he wants his property disposed of. But he did not. And the law says that without a will, she is his beneficiary. Period.
No matter
Did he
if she
have a
even
will?
agreed?
What?
No matter if she agreed at that moment? Yes, okay, I won't do that to Sophia. I won't, you know.
Listen to me. The quilt belongs to her. And what I don't understand is how a family, this extended family, which managed to maintain itself for all those years over a thing, could become a family where police are called to come to her home to take a piece of property, especially when she was really pretty nice. She said, I want everybody to have something of his, because we all cared about him. I'm going to give you some jewelry that was his. I'm going to give you all the mementos that you want from his life and things that you gave him that may be important to you. That belongs to her. Your case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm sorry it had to come down to this.
She is aware of the value it is to me. She knows how much it meant to me.
I love this quilt.
I didn't want to see this happen. I didn't want to make the outcome this way.
I want to keep it.
It's very hard.
I feel really bad because I love this family.
I want my dad to rest in peace.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Estrada versus Estrada, step forward, please.
Homemaker Morning Bear Estrada is suing her daughter, 19-year-old waitress Deanna Estrada, for the cost of internet classes, allowing her to graduate high school, and for the cost of her prom dress. Deanna says it's not her responsibility to pay for school expenses.
Mrs. Estrada, this is your daughter, and you're suing her because you say that she owes you for some classes that she had to take over the internet in order to graduate from high school.
Yes, ma'am.
And she owes you for money that you laid out for her prom dress and for her yearbook and for the shoes for graduation and expenses for graduation, which she should pay you for. And that she showed her appreciation by taking off and leaving in the middle of the night to go live with her boyfriend a few months ago.
Correct.
And she's totally ungrateful. And your daughter says that you're her mom and you're supposed to take care of these things for her.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Okay. Did you tell your mom you would pay her back for laying out the money for these classes?
No, there was no agreement on for
I didn't
both
ask
parts.
you. There's just no. I asked you whether you told your mom you would pay her back.
No.
When did she tell you she would pay you back?
Basically from day one, Your Honor.
Well, explain that to me.
Basically, Deanna was going to flunk. And her counselor said that in order for Deanna to graduate from high school, she needed basically these classes. She needed night school, regular class, plus the internet courses. Each class cost an arm and a leg. My daughter over here decides the curfew is 10 o'clock, you get off the phone. She's on the phone with
I'm not
boyfriend.
talking about curfew. That's not what I'm here about. Listen to me. I'm not a therapist.
I'm sorry.
I don't want to be a therapist. You're here to try to demonstrate to me that you had an agreement with your daughter first to pay for those classes, because I tell you quite frankly, Miss Estrada, I'm shocked that you are pursuing money from her for these classes that enabled her to graduate from high school. But that's what parents do.
Exactly.
They make sure that their children graduate from high school in order to give them a start. And if they haven't done the right thing, or if they've stayed on the phone, or if they've come home late after curfew, kids do that. It's not terrific, but kids do that. But their parents still don't pursue them in court for education, especially high school education.
I understand that.
Good. So if you understand it, you want to explain to me why you're here?
I'm suing my daughter is I didn't have to do any of this. I could have opted to let her flunk like any parent. But if you love your kids and you want them to succeed in life, you don't give up. I didn't have to spend that kind of money for my daughter. I wanted them to go out there and make it on their own. That's our job. She had.
You know, that's a lot of double speak that you're giving me, Mrs. Estrada.
She has
Miss Estrada,
yes, ma'am.
that's double talk.
Basically, Deanna sat in my house, Your Honor, and told her mom, the reason she doesn't show me respect is because she has none for me.
You think that you're going to garner respect for her by suing her?
No, ma'am, like I told her, I've earned the respect. I don't need it from my daughters. I've earned it.
Listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Why are you suing her for the money?
Because we both have the agreement in order for her to go to night school and internet courses that she wanted to graduate on time at the beginning. And I said, well, that's what I'm here. You know, if you want me to help you, she says, Mommy, once I get a job, I'll pay you back.
Excuse
from
me, that's
day
not true.
one.
Not true.
From day one.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Honestly, on my part, I don't think I should be paying her back because that is her job to help me graduate. She
Did
wanted.
you tell her? Listen to me. Deanna, did you say to your mom, if you help me out so that I can graduate on time, when I get a job, I'll pay you back?
No, I did not.
Now let's talk about the prom dress. Did she or did she not go to the prom?
Yes, ma'am. She did go to the prom.
So what are you here for with the prom dress? I don't
As far
understand
as the
that.
prom dress, no, because when she took the prom dress, she's like, oh, I didn't want to go to my prom. I didn't need to go to my prom. The agreement was she wanted to go to her prom as long
I don't
as...
know, Mrs. Estrada.
Yes,
why are you here, madam?
I'm suing my daughter for the simple fact, when my daughter tells me she has no respect for her mother after putting the effort in,
Mrs. Estrada,
and the agreement was she was
Mrs.
supposed
Estrada,
to pay me.
I think that it's a very bad idea that you sue your daughter.
I understand, Your Honor.
And I think that you did no more for your daughter than any other parent should do for their child, which is ensure that they graduate from high school no matter what it takes, even if you have to put yourself into a little bit of debt.
I agree with you.
To provide her with the prom dress and prom tickets and whatever else it needs so that she could, in fact, go to the prom and have that as a memory. That's what every parent does. You don't have the right to come to court and sue your daughter.
I cannot even afford this,
Listen to me.
Your Honor.
Then you shouldn't have done it.
That's just my point was...
Listen to me. Then you shouldn't have done it. If you can't afford it, don't do it.
That's why she said that she would pay me back if I would help her out. Yes, ma'am.
I don't believe that your daughter... I'm speaking. I don't believe that your daughter promised to pay you back for these things at the time they were done.
I have
and
proof.
whether or not...
I do have the proof.
Mrs. Strata, from me you get nothing.
Well, Your Honor,
Zero. Listen to me, Mrs. Strata. Nothing. You did no more than what any parent of a child in high school is supposed to do, which is ensure that they graduate from high school, and if you didn't have the money to do it, you shouldn't have done it.
Exactly.
Good. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step. Burnley versus Belluccio. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Burnley, according to what I've read, the defendant was your former fiancée. She lived with you for a period of time. You claim that she owes you for two things. First, for rent for several months that she lived there and she didn't pay you rent. And second, for a credit card loan that you paid off for her and that she agreed to repay. The defendant says that while she was there was not an agreement for rent, that in quite the opposite, she was really treated more like a maid than anything else. She cooked and cleaned and took care of you and your children and the house. And in addition, while she does acknowledge that there was a loan for her credit card debt that she had, she says that she agreed to leave certain items at the house when she left that more than cover the balance of the loan, some of which she had already paid to you. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Burnley, when did you start to date Ms. Belluccio?
February of 1998.
And in February of, because I've read these papers very carefully, in February of 1998, sir, you were married.
Yes.
And how old were you?
36.
And how old was Miss Belluccio?
19.
Is that right?
I was 18.
And where did you meet her?
I work.
What kind of work did you do?
It's a convenience store.
What were you doing at the convenience store?
I was her boss.
So you were her boss. She was 18 years old. She was going to school?
Yes.
College?
Yes.
And she was working besides, going to school full time?
Yes, ma'am.
How long had you been separated from your wife?
10 years almost.
Are you divorced now?
No, not yet.
Why not?
Long story. She was supposed to pay for the divorce.
I have time, sir.
Okay.
And it's a long story, but I guarantee it's not such a long story.
It was a matter of principle that she would, when we had split up, she had taken all the furniture and stuff like that, and she was supposed to pay for a divorce, and that she never did.
Stubborn sucker, aren't you?
Yes.
You have children?
Yes.
How old are they?
11 and 12.
Now, when did Miss Belluccio move in with you?
July of 1999.
And did you become engaged at that time?
No.
When did you become engaged?
I do not remember approximately. She asked me to marry her first, and at that time I said that I believe she should be at least 25 before she gets married, so she knows what she's getting into.
And did you ever change your story?
I asked her to marry me a couple of years later.
Did you give her a ring?
Yes.
And you're still not divorced?
Correct.
How did you plan to carry that out, sir?
I procrastinate, but I believed that I would have it done before we would get married.
That's usually the way things go.
Right.
I want you to tell me about this rent that you claim she owes you.
In July of '99, I purchased a home. I did not believe it was a good idea for her to move in at that time, but it happened that way. The agreement was, though, that at that time the living expenses cost $800.
What were the living expenses?
Well, the mortgage was $550, electric, phone, stuff like that. They came to approximately $800. She did agree to pay $400.
Why would she pay off your mortgage? Was the house in her name?
I wouldn't call it paying my mortgage. It was half the living expenses.
She was living with you, and I assume sharing your bed. Right?
Correct.
Who took care of the chores around the house?
She did.
Didn't you think you were a little old for her, Mr. Burnley?
Yes.
Didn't you think that a guy who's 36 years old and married should have nothing to do with an 18-year-old girl who's working, going to school, trying to do the right thing? She want to get hooked up with you for? You can't even get yourself off the horse after 10 years. Huh?
She told me age didn't matter to her.
She told you
She
age
told me
didn't
that,
matter. She's
yes.
18 years old. You're a grown man. Age matters. There are a lot of things that matter that people say don't matter. They matter. It is your statement that you did not have an agreement with him for rent. Is that right?
There was no formal agreement. There were times when we did say, give what you can. There were times when Stephen had 2 roommates where he didn't expect a penny from me. And then there were times we actually did, in September of 2003, have a formal rent agreement.
Okay. What was your agreement?
That I would pay him $300 and that I would pay for groceries.
Okay, and when did you move out?
November of 2003, at the end.
Okay, so for 3 months.
Correct. I always contributed to the household, whether it be projects or whether it be, I paid for all the groceries. There may have been 1 month in the 4 years that we lived together that Stephen bought groceries. But I did all the household chores, and I assisted him with several projects. I have pictures of his whole house has been changed. I paid for a lot of those things.
Like what?
Painting. I helped him paint. We did the whole back patio, and I paid for several flowers to go in the ground, at least $250 a summer. I paid for flowers, and several of those flowers have come back.
So you treated the house as if it was going to be your home?
That is what Stephen told me at all times. That he offered one of the roommates money, $7 per hour, to help him work on a project. And I questioned, why aren't you offering me money to help you work on these projects? And he said to me that half of this will be yours someday.
I'm listening.
That part's not true about putting in flowers. I always had told her, don't put flowers in, you can't afford it, you're going to school. She'd also bought clothes for my children, which I told her not to do.
So she was a nice person?
Yes.
When you were
yes,
together?
She did a lot.
Try to hold up her end of the financial bargain while you were together, and then some.
That's correct, which I told her all along.
So why are you here suing her for rent?
Principal.
Someone who proposes marriage to a girl half his age while he's still married shouldn't talk about principle.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You lived together for how many years?
4.
Get over it.
And later today,
your mother never said to you, don't worry, it's a gift. Right?
Right, but she did say, don't worry.
Oh, did you ever hear the expression, beauty fades, dumb is forever?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Stephen Burley says ex-fiancée Courtney Belluccio owes for a loan to pay off a credit card. Courtney says Stephen is still legally married.
Now let's get to the credit card.
April 10th, 2003. I was not aware at that moment. She came to me and told me that she had a credit card that she had, I don't know if it was maxed out, but it was very high interest. It was killing her paying the payments. So I decided to take a bank offer loan that I'd had and pay off that credit card, and it was at 2%.
How much did you give her to pay off the credit?
$5,176.
And how much did she pay back? How much did you pay back?
I paid back $3,890.
And you claim that you don't owe anything on this because why?
When I moved out in November of at the end of November 2003, I told Stephen when I was leaving that I'm going to leave some things behind. If I'm going to write my estimated value next to it, I'd like you to write what you feel is a fair value next to it, and we'll agree upon a value, and we'll take that off the balance. And he agreed.
Can I please see the list that you prepared of the things that you left behind? Well, let me tell you this. Some of this is nonsense. A bicycle. Now that's $100. Kitchen table and 4 chairs.
Sits in the basement. Told her she could take it. Would she need it?
2 dining room chairs.
In my basement.
You have any use for these things?
No.
You can go get these things because he doesn't want them, but you don't get credit for them. Okay. You agree to pay it back. The money you owe him $1,500. That's all. Your lawsuit, sir, is seeking over $3,000. I think you're a little out of line. I think you're out of line with the rent. I don't think that you had an agreement other than the defendant has already acknowledged that is an agreement for 3 months. I believe her when she says she paid you the rent for the 3 months, September, October, November. Mm-hmm. That's it. You lived together for how many years?
4.
4 years? Get over this list. Get over it, unless you want any of this stuff. If you want any of this stuff, it's in his basement. I'll make an order that you can go pick it up. Do you want it?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. She's going to come and pick up all this junk within 5 days of the date of this hearing, and she owes you $1,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think his real motivation is that he's simply angry with me.
I procrastinate a lot, so she probably figured I wouldn't try to collect it.
We had just completely grown apart. We wanted different things on a daily basis from life.
I was just in no hurry to get married again, I guess.
It was all on principle. He was planning on getting a divorce, and ironically, after I left, he initiated one.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of power versus power. Step forward, please.
Homemaker Mary Power is suing her daughter, administrative assistant Catherine Power, for the cost of a cruise from New York to Canada.
Ms. Power, this is your daughter.
Yes, it is.
And I gather from reading your petition that at this point in your lives you're not happy with each other.
No, we're not.
So this is what the case is about. Your family was planning to go away on a cruise together, so I assume you all got along. You have children?
Yes.
How many?
2.
And they were going on the cruise also?
Yes.
How many of your brothers and sisters were going?
2. 2 sisters.
And Mrs. Power, what you tell me in your petition is that your daughter paid for the cruise, and then the cruise company went bankrupt.
Correct.
And everybody was really disappointed, and according to what you tell me, I read, you made arrangements for a second cruise.
Correct.
And since the refund hadn't come back yet, you paid for the second cruise.
Correct.
And your daughter didn't pay you back when she got the refund.
Correct.
She says that the second cruise was a gift.
Absolutely not.
That's your defense. Is that right?
Yeah.
When were you planning to go on this cruise, Miss Power?
The first cruise on Regal Cruises, we were going June 29th of 2003.
And where were you going?
We were going from New York to Canada.
Kathy, how much did you pay for that cruise for you and your 2 children? Was it 3 people going?
I paid $906, but that wasn't a full total.
When did you pay that money?
Throughout January to May of 2003.
Great. When were you advised, Miss Power, that the cruise was canceled?
I was advised in May of 2003.
And did you rebook another cruise?
Yes, I did.
For the same period of time?
For the same period of time. Just one day earlier, we were going to leave than previously planned.
And was that a more expensive cruise?
A few $100s more.
So what happened? You went on the cruise in June?
We went on the cruise. We had a great time. I got a refund back in February of 2004.
Did you call your daughter and ask her if she had gotten a refund back?
Yes, I was very excited I got my refund, but she didn't seem to be as excited. And she just called me up a few days later, and she said to me, now she didn't say she got her check back. She said that when she gets her check back, she'd like to use it to go to Florida on another vacation. And I said, absolutely no. I want my money back.
And she said?
And she said that no, she wasn't giving it back to me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Mary Power says her daughter, Catherine Power, owes for a cruise from New York to Canada. Catherine says she's a struggling single mom, and the cruise was a gift.
Give me your version of the events that led to your belief that this was a gift to you.
The first cruise that we had purchased, actually my mom called me and said, would you like to go on a cruise? And I'll help pay for it. And then she ended up paying for my sister Karen's part, but didn't help me. So I was still paying for it because I wanted to go. So I just went on about my time and got a phone call when I was at work, and she said, I purchased a new cruise. So I was like, well, Mom, I don't have money. And nothing came up about the refund check. I don't have the money to pay for it. She goes, don't worry, it's a gift. So that's how I took it as.
Kathy,
what?
Your mother never said to you, don't worry, it's a gift.
She said, don't worry.
I know that she didn't say, don't worry, it's a gift, and you know she didn't say, don't worry, it's a gift. Right?
Right, but she did say, don't worry. She didn't say it was a gift, but she said not to worry.
Right. She didn't say it was a gift. How did I know that?
Because people don't say that.
Sure.
They just...
Because if it doesn't sound right, it's not true.
Yeah.
So tell me what happened, Miss Power, when you got back your refund from the cruise line in February.
She said she paid for the cruise and that I was supposed to pay her back. And that was not my point of it. It was...
Well, was your point of it? Was your point of it that...
She bought a trip for the family. It was the last family trip. She felt that everyone should go on it because my father was sick and she wanted us all together. That's what it was.
Then, Kathy, would you explain to me, if that's your rationalization for keeping the money, why is it that you testified earlier that from February until May, you were paying the travel agent, and you paid the travel agent $906 if your mother had already said to you, I want to take the family away on a trip? And what I think happened that really annoyed you is that your mother, according to you, chose to pay for one of your sisters to go and didn't choose to pay for you. Because you've already mentioned that once, and that, I would say, might fry you a little bit. But let me understand why your mother decided to pay for one sister and not you. You want to explain that to me?
Yes. When my daughter, Kathy, had my grandson, she had to take some leave off from work. She was on maternity leave. And during that time, my husband, Bill, and I helped her with her rent and her car payments to keep her going. And I did ask her at that time to pay me back, but she did not.
Okay, just a second. So, did your parents help you?
They came up to the house when I had Liam and watched Emerald, my daughter, and then she helped me with diapers and stuff.
So you decided to pay for Karen to make it even with your children?
Right.
Okay. How much was the total cost of your trip, Madam? $1,206?
It was $1,806 altogether, and then minus $500 for my sister.
$1,306.
Okay, $1,306. $1,306 is what you intended to pay. Is that right?
Correct.
Mrs. Powell, even if you decided to go on a little bit more expensive cruise, I assume you would be perfectly happy if you got $1,306 back from your daughter. If she said to you, listen, I don't have the extra money, but here's the $1,306 that I was intending to pay for the first one. I'm going to give that back to you.
I would have been happy.
And that would have been right, Kathy.
No.
That would have been right, Kathy.
Nope.
Listen to me. You have to stop relying on other people to take care of the problems that you create. You create certain problems. You created a lifestyle for yourself. And it seems to me from listening to your mother, who's a pretty rational lady, that you have relied on other people to take care of the problems that you create. And when you listen to me, and when you turn 30, you just told me that. You just told me a moment ago that your parents came to watch your daughter when your son was born.
Correct.
And gave you a little bit of money, a little bit of help. Well, that means relying on other people for problems that you create.
They didn't have to come.
Oh, listen to me. Listen to me. Did you ever hear the expression, beauty fades, dumb is forever? Huh? All right. That's all I'm going to say. You owe your mother $1,306. That is the cost of the trip that you had originally said that you were going to take care of. You got a refund for most of it. You should have turned that refund over to your mother by signing over the check to her and saying, thanks for covering the balance. She would have been ecstatic that you did the right thing. You chose to do the wrong thing. And you can't, at your age, do the wrong thing. First of all, it sets a bad example for your children, and that's primarily why you can't do the wrong thing. Because you're supposed to set a perfect example for your children, and then you're not supposed to make your mother come and sue you. Don't say anything. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,306. That's all. Step out.
That's case number 176 on the calendar in the matter of Gifford versus Ward. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Mr. Gifford, the defendant is your daughter.
Correct.
And it is your claim that you made a loan to her. The loan was to pay off certain fines that she had, criminal fines, driving while under the influence of alcohol.
Correct, yes.
And she hasn't paid you back.
No, she has not.
Your daughter says that you volunteered to pay these fines for her, that at the time you paid the fines, you knew she was unable to pay you back, and there was never any agreement to reimburse you for the money that you spent for the fines. And that the real reason that you are here is because of a complaint that she filed against you with Child Protective Services, which resulted in you no longer having visitation with her child.
Correct.
Who
is this?
My wife, ex-wife. We're together still.
This is your wife, your ex-wife?
Ex-wife, we're still together, Your Honor.
Still together?
Yes.
Just my own curiosity. Why are you still together if it's your ex-wife?
Oh, her father passed away, and then I was one of the pallbearers, and at that point in time, we...
Sort of got back together again?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been married?
We were married for 7 years.
And how long have you been divorced?
A little over 2, and we've been back together now for another year.
Okay. Good. Who is this?
This is my boyfriend, Henry.
Is Henry the father of your child?
No, he's not.
Before we get into this, tell me about your child. You have one child, a boy?
Yes.
How old is he?
7.
Who does he live with?
With his father.
How long has he lived with his father?
He's lived with his father since October.
His father had full custody?
It's joint custody.
He lives with his father?
Well, yeah, he has full custody of him.
He has full custody of him? Do you visit with him?
Yes.
Supervised or unsupervised?
Unsupervised.
When were you given unsupervised visitation?
The last court appearance in June.
Prior to June, you had supervised visits?
Correct.
And who supervised the visits?
My father was supervising the visits.
So that your son had visitation with his grandfather and you were permitted to see him at your father's house?
Yes.
Is your problem alcohol, drug addiction, a combination thereof, individual? What's the problem?
Yes, it was a combination of both.
And how long has your son been living full-time with his father?
Since October.
Prior to that, were you living together with his father?
No. We weren't together since I was pregnant. 7 years now we haven't been together.
Prior to October, you had full custody of him?
Yes.
Was he ever in foster care?
No.
Was he ever removed from your home?
No.
Did your father ever have custody of him?
No.
Okay. All right, Mr. Gibbs, tell me about this loan.
Okay, this loan was regarding a DUI that she had back in 2000. She had a passenger in the car. She was under the influence of narcotics and alcohol. She hit a tree. CHP was dispatched. She went to jail. She called me up, and I said, best thing for her to do is stay in jail. She'll be arraigned, because I feel that 2 punishments should be served. Then at that long period of time, she was still involved with methamphetamines. Children were in and out of homes. We were paying
Which children?
That's just...
Both Michael and Brittany.
I thought there was only one.
No.
Where is your daughter?
With me.
How old is Brittany?
4.
And she's always been with you?
I just got her back recently.
From where?
From her grandma, my ex-mother-in-law.
How long had she had custody?
She doesn't have custody.
9 months.
How long had she had custody?
She lived there since October, too.
Through CPS.
No, it was voluntarily.
Okay. So there were these fines dating back to 2002.
Correct.
Go ahead.
When she was going through detox and an outreach program.
When was that?
That was in October. She was checked in. She was released to us in basically December, because they did not offer the counseling or some of the amenities that were ordered by the courts. So they released her to myself and Sherry. At that point in time, I got her through counseling through the state where I work. Got her set up so I would be able to take her to and from her toxicology test and provide what she needed through the courts, and also supervise visitations. That way, both the brother and sister were able to see each other at that point in time, because they were separated, and she would be able to spend time with her children.
Okay. I get to the loan.
She approached me in November. She goes, Dad, I have a DUI that I have never paid on since 2000. Could you help me get my driver's license back and get back on my feet? I said, I expect to be paid back. So I went ahead, I paid them off. When I finally came back home, I went ahead and drafted up the exact amount she owed, stuck a payment plan together, and then she refused to pay me.
Now, how much were the fines that you actually paid?
Total amount would be $2,469.
And what happened when you presented her with this loan agreement?
At that point in time, she said, I will pay you back $150. She went ahead and only paid $148 in cash.
When did she pay you the $148 in cash?
March of 2004.
And under what circumstances did she pay the $148 in March?
She came up to me and she says, Dad, I know I owe you the money. I want to pay you the $150. And then I counted out and I said, Katie, this is $148. She goes, I'll try to get the rest of the money to you later when I get paid again.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Ward.
He made me make arrangement with the courts to start my DUI so I could start my classes. I told him I do not want him to come because I know he will try to attack me for something in the future. He said, no, I will take you there. We will get this settled so you can have a fresh start on your feet. We didn't speak the whole way there. We were in court. I was standing there talking to the judge, and he asked to stand up himself. The judge asked him who he was. He told him. He said, what is your reasons of being here? And he said, I'm here to pay off her fine. So the judge said, okay, gave us the receipt, went to the window,
Ms.
and
Ward,
paid it.
You had fines, correct?
Yes, correct.
What did you intend to do with the fines?
I was going to have a payment plan.
Good. With whom were you going to have a payment plan?
With the courts.
Over what period of time were you going to pay them?
I was going to pay it every month.
You were already late in paying the fines, right?
3 years.
Yes.
You were already late?
Yes.
So it was your intention to ask the judge to give you an opportunity, rather than sending you to jail, to start paying the fines off on a monthly basis.
Correct.
And what did you think was going to happen to you if, after not paying for 3 years, you made a plan with the judge and you said, don't put me in jail now. I'm going to pay you every month. And what do you think was going to happen if you didn't pay him?
I probably would have had a warrant for my arrest.
You would have gone back to jail.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You have Henry, and I assume you think Henry is going to be in your life for a while. And I'm suggesting to you, if you take a look over at Henry, in a very short period of time, you'll forget what he looks like.
And later today,
she hung up these shooting targets after Jose was unwelcomed into the house surrounding the living room area where I was sleeping.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kurt Gifford says his daughter, Catherine Ward, owes for an unpaid loan for DUI fines. Kirk says his daughter has problems with drugs and alcohol.
Miss Ward, what I'm asking you is, if you intended to pay off your fines, which were your fines, why didn't you pay your father?
Because he told me not to worry about it.
No, that's not what he's saying at all.
Of course that's not what he's saying. He's mad at me for all this other stuff.
You gave him $148 in March of 2004.
Because he was kicking me out and he was mad at me over something, so I got a paycheck and he said, you owe me money. I said, here, take my paycheck.
Miss Ward, what I'm asking you is, why didn't you start giving him back the money immediately, just as you were planning to do to the court? It's your fine, not his.
I agree.
Good. There we go. Now you're getting to be a grown-up. Now, why didn't you pay your father every month? Because he fronted the money.
Because he asked me to start with a clean start and get up on my feet. He told me to start doing everything right and stay straight.
Well, did you?
Yes, I have been.
Really?
Yes.
Where are you working?
I work at Home Depot.
And are you a full-time employee?
Yes, I am.
How long have you been a full-time employee?
Since March.
Good. And what does your boyfriend do?
He's a construction worker.
And do you live together?
Yes, we do.
So you have plenty of money to pay your fines?
Yes.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Regarding my grandson and my court visitation, basically that's pending due to the fact that I temporarily removed myself, but I'm still a joiner to the case in order for he can seek psychiatric counseling, because there is some trauma due to the fact of what's gone on with Katie, and that's why she brought it up, saying that I was upset because I definitely wanted to make sure both my granddaughter and my grandson do get the psychiatric counseling. They do need from over the years of drug abuse.
That's not correct. There's not over years of drug abuse.
Of course it was.
No, there hasn't.
Of course it was. Of course it was. What do you think, it was 2 weeks? I mean, we've been around for a long time.
I understand that, but
we've been around for a long time.
It's
not
like
2
I've
weeks,
been doing
it's not
it for
3
years.
weeks, it's not 4 weeks, it's not 6 months, it's not a year.
It was 6 months of a period.
She was pregnant while she was in rehab, while she was still under the influence of methamphetamine.
Listen, Miss Ward. That's not correct. Listen, Miss Ward, I'm glad that you seem to have gotten yourself back.
Thank you.
On track. That's wonderful. And you have a job. You've had a job for a while. The boyfriend. You have children?
No.
Why did you have to think about that?
I have children, but they're not with me.
That's not what I asked you, sir. Over there. Your name?
My name's Henry. Henry Twilling.
Miss Twilling, when I ask you if you have children, the answer is, I have children.
Yes.
How many children do you have?
I have 4.
Where do they live?
They live in South Dakota with their paternal relatives.
Where's their mother?
I haven't seen her for many years.
Why don't they live with you?
I'm just getting back on my feet.
From what?
Long period of drug use.
He has a parole officer. He was convicted and incarcerated in the penitentiary.
For?
For drugs.
And where did the two of you meet?
We met at a meeting.
Mr. Gifford, you understand that the Supreme Court recently issued a ruling that I don't agree with, not surprisingly. And that ruling said that grandparents have no right to visit with their grandchildren.
You're right.
You're aware of that?
Yes, ma'am.
I think that that ruling was short-sighted, because I think that sometimes you have to look on a case-by-case basis. And when you've had a grandparent that, and I don't know if that's true in your case, but when you have a grandparent who has been, let us say, a primary caretaker of children, it's unfair for a biological parent to say, well, I'm not going to let him see him anymore because I don't get along with him. Because very often you have parents like this whose primary thought is not the overall best interests of their children, because everything is a parent. Dogs have parents, cats have parents, fish have parents, ants have parents. Just because you're a parent doesn't necessarily mean you're a good parent or a caring parent. All I can tell you is this, Miss Ward. Do your two children have the same father?
No, they don't.
And this man isn't the father of either of your two children?
No.
And I assume that when you had a baby with your son's father, you intended for him to be in your life for a while. And I assume that when you had a child with your daughter's father, that you intended for him to be in your life for a while. And now you have Henry. And I assume you think Henry is going to be in your life for a while. And I'm suggesting to you, if you take a look over at Henry, in a very short period of time, you'll forget what he looks like. Now, I'm telling you that you have a responsibility to see to it that your two children have whatever constants in their life as possible. And if one of those constants in their lives have been their grandfather, you're not supposed to allow immature judgments to impede that and to impair that if it's not in your children's best interest. Do I make myself clear? Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,321. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm still a joiner to the case to oversee that my grandchildren do get a fair shake in life.
There's always been strain.
I don't want them to be raised up in the same environment and have them in and out of jail.
He doesn't even have a relationship with his own mother, so...
I wish this on no one.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Andrews versus Zimmerman. Step forward, please.
Belly dancing instructor Hillary Andrews is suing her former roommate, yoga instructor Candy Zimmerman, for the return of her clothes and her shoes. Candy is countersuing for unpaid rent and a security deposit.
Miss Andrews, according to what I read, the defendant was a friend of yours. Came a time when you and your boyfriend were in some difficulty, and Miss Zimmerman offered you a place to stay. And then shortly after you moved in, she threw the boyfriend out. Is this the boyfriend? Mm-hmm. She threw the boyfriend out, and you left a couple of weeks after that. And it is your claim that she kept $2,000 worth of your property. Ms. Zimmerman says the only thing she has left of your property is some old shoes, and I assume that this is the visual aid today of the old shoes. And, I don't know, nothing else of any value.
A lamp.
A lamp. That's all she has of yours. She is counterclaiming. She says you owe her $2,500 for security deposit that you were supposed to put down on this room that you had, and also for rent when you were there. When did you move into her house?
On April 7th, 2004.
And how long did you stay?
Until May 5th, 2004.
And what property did you leave there?
Basically, it's a bunch of shoes, up to like 20 pairs of shoes.
Shoes are
Some
here.
of them are here. Some of them I don't see. There's another
shoes.
hanging item like that would hold more.
What else?
The lamp, which was like a $40 lamp, a full-length mirror, a broom. Also, when I moved in, I was supposed to get a room. I did not get a room. I had to stay in the living room on my own futon because the room I was promised was filled with boxes to the ceiling. I also wanted to mention that she hung up these shooting targets after Jose was unwelcomed into the house surrounding the living room area where I was sleeping for the rest of the day.
Okay, so she's not happy. She wasn't happy with you. Miss Andrews, why do you think that after she was so nice to you that she all of a sudden turned on you?
I don't know, Your Honor.
Well, maybe I should ask her. Why did you turn on her?
Basically...
Not basically. Just tell me why you turned.
She's a spoiled brat. I heard the way she spoke to her welfare caseworker, the way she spoke to her insurance agent. She humiliates people on the phone when she doesn't get her way. She treated me badly, told me how to cook in my own house, completely defended the boyfriend, saying, oh, it's not his fault he's mean, he's on cocaine. And, you know, it's unacceptable.
Now, as far as your counterclaim is concerned, I don't quite understand that, Miss Zimmerman, because you told me in your answer that you took Miss Andrews and her boyfriend in because they were going through hard times.
Yeah, she said...
Just a second.
Okay.
I don't care what she said. How was she supposed to give you $1,200 or $1,500 in a security deposit if she had hard times?
She said she couldn't afford it, but she could borrow money from her boyfriend and her father.
All right, so you know what security deposit is for?
For, like, if they trash your house, then you
But they didn't trash your house.
Yes, they did.
Oh, well, you didn't put anything about that in your answer about trashing the house.
They broke a window and supposedly cleaned the antique hood over my stove, etched scratches all over it.
Show me the bill where you paid to have those two things
Okay,
repaired.
I don't have a bill because I can't afford it.
So then.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh. What else? So you don't get security deposit?
Yes, ma'am. She's saying that she never agreed to pay rent, and I have evidence here. The only rent she ever paid me, a $50 check. So this is my evidence, is the check that she paid.
Can I see that, please? Your evidence for what?
That she agreed to pay rent, and she just said she didn't agree to pay any rent.
Well, here we have it that you cashed on May the 5th.
No, ma'am, I didn't cash it.
Oh, you didn't cash it?
No, ma'am.
Utilities, phone, and rent.
Yes, ma'am.
I think you should cash it.
Yeah, oh, I'm gonna now.
Good. Good, because it's all the money you're going to get. Give her shoes, please, Byrd, okay?
Sure, no problem.
And don't trip over each other when you walk out. That's all.
Foltz versus Foltz. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
How old are you?
I'm 27.
You have brothers and sisters?
I have a younger sister.
How old is she?
She's 26.
And how long ago did your parents divorce?
I was about 3 or 4 years old.
Mr. Foltz, this is your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And your complaint is that you gave your daughter $3,000 for her wedding.
Yes, ma'am.
And because of circumstances, you decided not to go to the wedding, and you want that money back.
Yes, ma'am.
And your daughter said that this $3,000 was an unconditional gift, and she's already spent it on deposits, etc., for the wedding. When is the wedding scheduled?
May of next year.
Now, how many children do you have, Mr. Foltz?
2 children, 2 stepchildren.
And how long have you been married to your second wife?
15 years.
And how old are those children?
21.
21
25.
and 25.
Okay. So let's get down to it. You called your dad.
Mm-hmm.
You told him you were planning a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
You asked him for some help.
I actually didn't ask him for help. He said to me that he felt it was only fair that he pay 50% and that my mother pay 50%.
Well, that was very nice of him. So you had a reasonable relationship with him if he said that to you, at least now?
Up until, yeah, until recently, yes.
I want to ask your mother some questions, okay?
Come on up, Mom.
What's your last name?
Bean.
Your daughter told you initially, after she had spoken to her father, and her father agreed to contribute to the wedding, that it was her intention of having both of you walk her down the aisle?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were not happy with that?
It was not a, I was okay with it. I was fine with it. I was just worried that his animosity may create some problems.
Did you convey that to your daughter?
I already knew that.
Just a minute. That's not what I asked.
Yes, I did.
I'm asking you these questions, Jennifer, because, you know, if you've been around the block as long as I have, and as many times, nothing is new under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting the following picture. When you spoke to your father, and he said to you, I really want to pay for half the wedding, and you told him that it was your intention to have your two parents walk you down the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
He was pleased about that.
No, he wasn't.
Well, he says he was.
He wasn't.
Well, you don't know that because you weren't on the phone with him. But then later you told him that it was your intention only to have your mother walk you down the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's then that he became angry.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I want my money back. I'm not going to the wedding under those circumstances.
Can she tell you what happened after that?
Sure.
Tell her what happened after that. The planning.
Yeah, as my wedding planning progressed, my dad just kept making demands on me as far as he wanted his own table, he wanted it to be up front, he wanted to invite certain people, and he was just putting extra stress on me that I was already going through with the wedding.
Okay. Well, how many people were you planning on having at the wedding?
80, 100.
Well, then, wouldn't it be normal for him to have his own table?
I think he was under the impression that there would be my parents having their own table and my fiance's parents having their own table, and he wanted to make sure he wouldn't be sitting with my mother.
So, what's wrong with that?
There's a lot wrong with that.
No, there isn't. Jennifer. There's not a lot wrong with that. If you had two parents who really got along beautifully with each other and they had this lovely relationship that had developed over the years despite the fact that they were not together, then there wouldn't have been anything untoward about them sharing a table. But if you knew that they did not enjoy that kind of relationship, then you should have been smart enough to say, you have your table with your family. Of course, Dad.
Yeah,
you
I
have
did
your
say that.
If you have your table with your family, and Mom will have her table with her family, or maybe Mom will sit with, what's the boyfriend's name?
Doug.
Mom is going to sit with Doug's family, and you could sit with your family. 80 people. You're not going to all sit at one table. So, I've just taken care of that problem. Now, what's the second problem that he raised?
He wanted to invite certain guests, and I wanted to have a smaller wedding. I didn't want strangers
Who did he
at my
want?
wedding.
Who did
Some close friends of his.
How many?
I think there were 2 of them.
That's reasonable, Jennifer.
Right, but if he wasn't even really involved in my life, why would he want to share that with other people?
Jennifer, you were willing to take his money, weren't you?
He offered
Just
it
a
to
second.
me.
You were willing to take his money,
Yes,
weren't you?
I was.
If you're willing to take his money, and if you said to him, and I want you and Mom to walk me down the aisle, and then you say, I changed my mind because he was making, according to you, unreasonable demands, I'm telling you, you're out of line. And I really wasn't prepared to go that way.
Listen, can I say something now?
Sure, you sure can.
I did not change my mind because I changed my mind because I'd always wanted it just to be my mom. It was my way of honoring my mom for raising me. I didn't do it to punish my dad. I didn't do it for anything other than to honor my mother. That's the only reason I made that decision.
Jennifer, my dear, then you shouldn't have told your father at the beginning, Dad, I want you and Mom to walk me down the aisle. You should not have told him that. Because what you're telling me now is, well, I told him that, but then he made these demands on me, which is what you said a moment ago.
It is what I said a moment ago.
Oh, yeah, he made these demands on me, which I now tell you, as a third party, totally unrelated to you, were totally appropriate requests from a person who really knows. Because although my husband and I have made many weddings, we have a mixed family.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand what you're talking about. You're wrong.
Okay.
You're wrong, and you did the wrong thing.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He said, I'm
Oh,
not looking
please.
forward to walking you down the aisle with your mother. And I said, why? And he goes, because we know how that turned out last time. And I said, Dad, you're not marrying my mother, you're giving me away.
And later today,
I never even knew that we were getting some kind of tax credit check.
I had called Kevin, asked him about it.
And what did he say?
How does he know that I didn't forge his signature?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Arthur Foltz says his daughter Jennifer Foltz owes for money given towards her wedding. Arthur says Jennifer doesn't want him to walk her down the aisle.
Those 2 things that your father asked to have is a separate table, separate from your mother, and to invite 2 friends.
He also wanted his own limo. No.
Shh, just a second. Well, tell me about that.
He asked me if I was going to have a limo at the wedding, and I said, no, I don't need one. I'm just going to drive myself to the place, get ready there. Later on that evening, we got together for dinner, my father and I, and he said that he was going to have a limo for him and his friends.
So? He didn't ask you to pay for it, did he?
No, he didn't ask me to pay for it.
So?
But I just thought that was a little, odd. It's my wedding, but he wants to show up in the limo.
Who cares? Who cares if he comes in a bus? Who cares if he comes in a long bus, a short bus? It doesn't make any difference, Jennifer. You're picking on him. You're picking on him, honey. Life's too short.
It just bothers me that I didn't have much of a relationship with him when I was a child, and now he's trying to overtake the wedding and be a bigger part of the wedding than I feel he should be.
Jennifer, you're being a big baby.
I'm not being a big baby.
Yeah, you're being a big baby. And if you have bad feelings about your dad because he wasn't there for you when you were growing up, lots of children of divorce feel that way about their parents, especially when their parents remarry and have second family, right? That they're involved with, that live with them. Their kids feel as if I didn't have the benefit of really a full-time or even a part-time great parent. It's never too late.
I don't feel as if it's too late.
Well, you shouldn't feel as if it's too late. And it's a shame if your father doesn't go to the wedding. It's a shame if you have a wedding that doesn't include your father and his wife and your mother. Are you remarried?
No.
And whoever she wants to bring, if she wants to bring anybody, and everybody else who's part of your life. It's a shame that you don't have that moment. You will, listen to me, you will always regret it. Because, you know why, Jennifer? you'll always look at that book of pictures, and there'll be a bad feeling that he wasn't there.
You know what, though? When I told him that I wanted just my mom to walk him down the aisle, he said to me, then I want nothing to do with your wedding. He took himself out of the wedding. I can understand he's hurt. I'm sure he's hurt. But if he doesn't go to my wedding, it's on his terms, not mine.
No, Jennifer, you're wrong. You're being young. You're being young. I disagree with him if what he chooses to do is to not go to the wedding. But I'm telling you, you're not a baby. You're a big girl.
I am a big girl.
And your mother should be a big person. And your mother should say, usually, if one parent walks a child down the aisle, it's usually their father, not their mother, unless their father's dead. And in this case, if you want to be a big person, and you want to be a big person, you say, for that 30 seconds that it takes to walk down the aisle, let's walk our daughter, our firstborn, down the aisle together and give her away, and then there'll be a picture of her family at her wedding. Because, you know, what can happen is 10 years from now, when you and Doug have 2 kids, and you and your father have hopefully reconciled, your children will say to you, where's Poppy's picture at your wedding? And if you have not reconciled, then what you're doing is you're depriving your children of the widest possible community of love and affection.
I wouldn't be the one that would deprive them of that, though. He would be the one that would not make the effort.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Arthur Foltz says his daughter Jennifer Foltz owes for money given towards her wedding. Arthur says Jennifer doesn't want him to walk her down the aisle.
Jennifer, you hurt him.
I know.
You
I
hurt
understand that.
You hurt him. He's supposed to be bigger than that. Your mother is supposed to be bigger than that.
I didn't do a thing.
Well, you did, Miss Bean.
Yeah, exactly.
You did, because you said to your daughter, and you acknowledged that you said to your daughter, I hope he can get over certain things, and I hope he's not going to be hostile. And
in response to his hostility when she told him that we were going to do it together.
Madam, I'm talking about before you got there. Before you got to the point where she said, I changed my mind, Dad, only Mom is walking me down the aisle. Then he got hostile.
He was hostile before I changed my mind.
He was hostile from the beginning.
He said, I'm not looking
please.
forward to walking you down the aisle with your mother. And I said, why? And he goes, because we know how that turned out last time. And I said, Dad, you're not marrying my mother. You're giving me away.
Is that true, sir?
No, ma'am.
I mean, I don't understand how that could be true if he said to you, I want to pay for half the wedding. In the same conversation, when he said to you, I want to pay for half the wedding, and you're telling me now that his conversation was hostile?
Yes.
I don't believe you. Listen, Mr. Foltz, I can see I'm not getting anywhere. I've made my best effort, sir. You gave your daughter $3,000 for the wedding. It was a no-strings gift. I hope you go to the wedding. And Jennifer, I think if you want to grow up to be a big person and your mother wants to be the loving mother that she is, you will decide that it's the right thing that both your parents walk you down the aisle. You still have plenty of time to do that and to make up so that you don't end up looking at that wedding album 20 years from now and saying it was really a sad day. Mr. Foltz,
Your Honor.
Say nothing. Say nothing. You made your daughter a $3,000 contribution towards her wedding. I hope she does the right thing with it. That's
I do
all.
have things
Case
to say,
over.
Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think we're still both very hurt and angry, and I think that neither one of us really wants to take the step towards mending our relationship.
25 years ago, I tried to make amends to my ex-husband for the trouble that I caused in our divorce.
Her statement that I didn't raise her, and that's, it's very hurtful to me.
25 years is a long time to hold a grudge. But I don't want to see anything between him and my daughter get worse and divide them forever.
My heart tells me that I love her, but I just don't think it's being reciprocated.
You know, my wedding's supposed to be a happy time, and it's turning out to be not quite so happy.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Martin versus Martin. Step forward.
26-year-old insurance sales assistant Karen Martin is suing her ex-husband, home improvement salesman Kevin Martin, for stealing her share of a tax refund. Karen claims Kevin forged her signature on the check.
Ms. Martin, the defendant is your former husband. It is your claim that there was a government refund check in the amount of $400 that was issued to both of you, It is your claim that Mr. Martin forged your signature to that check, cashed that check, and you want your $200.
Yes, that is correct.
Mr. Martin says there was no check that he received. He did not forge your name to any check, and he, quite frankly, doesn't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
So let us assume for a moment that a refund check was sent to Mr. and Mrs. Martin. So your obligation now, Miss Martin, is to establish that he forged your name to that check.
Okay.
I'm waiting for you.
Okay. I do have a copy of the check where it's signed by him, and that is not my signature.
Okay.
I do have other...
Okay, let me see it.
Okay.
Mr. Martin, the Family Service Center, you familiar with that institution?
Yes, I am.
Tell me about that institution, sir.
It's a credit union that we had, as we were married, had an account there.
Mm-hmm. Are you trying to tell... clearly this check was sent to the two of you, and clearly it was endorsed by two people.
I never knew anything about the check. I never even knew that we were getting some kind of tax credit check.
How did you find out about the check, Miss Martin?
My cousin had received hers, and she had asked me if I got anything on it, and I...
These were the checks that were $400 that were issued to families by President Bush, is that right?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. It was $400 per child, and she had received hers and asked me if I received mine, and I said, no, I didn't. And I had called Kevin, asked him about it.
And what did he say?
He said, he had still said, I have no idea what you're talking about. How do you... Actually, he said, how do you know that I... Or how does he know that I didn't forge his signature?
So, Mr. Martin, what I'm asking you is that the conversation you had? How do I know you didn't forge my signature? Right?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the answer. The answer is you weren't calling her to complain that you didn't get your $200, right?
I never knew.
Now listen to me.
Okay.
You weren't calling her, Mr. Martin, to complain that you didn't get your $200.
No.
Because according to you, you didn't know about it. So why would she call you to complain? Listen to me. Call you to complain. If she had forged your signature to the check so that she got the entire $400 and you weren't calling her to complain about it, you get my drift, sir?
I understand what you're saying.
Old story. If it doesn't make sense, it's usually not true. And if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So somebody from your credit union cashed this... I'm speaking! Somebody from your credit union cashed this check with a signature that I have compared with the signature on your answer and with a signature that I have compared with the signature on Miss Martin's complaint. And while that's not necessarily dispositive of who forged whose signature, the signature on this check, your signature on this check, is eerily similar to your signature on the answer. While her signature on the check is no way similar to her signature on her complaint. So I put those facts together, and you know what I came up with? Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $200. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out. 46 on the calendar in the matter of Walentine versus Tomaselli. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Walentine, it is your claim that the defendant assaulted you at a party, causing you physical injury. You had substantial dental bills. You still have some work that has to be done. You want to be compensated for the assault. Mr. Tomaselli says that you started it, he finished it, and you were unruly. You touched him first, and he acted in self-defense. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. What is your name?
Amber Trill.
This is the lovely Amber. Sit down, Amber. I'm not
sorry
with you yet, but I will be. When did this happen, Mr. Walentine?
If I could recall the exact date, it would be
The questions
April
are going to
3rd.
get harder. Listen to me, Mr. Walentine. The questions are going to get harder. The date should be something that's fixed in your memory.
The night of April 3rd, 2004.
See, we're not going to play with each other. The only one that has a good time here is me. And you and the lovely Miss Amber were at a party together?
Yes.
Whose party was it?
Kind of my party, a going-away party.
Going from where to where, Mr. Valentine?
I am from New Mexico, so I was visiting. I do live in Seattle right now.
And in whose house was the party?
It was kind of an office building that they renovated into a music venue.
And how did Amber get to the party?
On her own, driving.
You don't know how she got there?
No.
Was she a friend of yours before April 3rd of 2004?
Yeah, we've known each other for about 3 years.
But you did not know Mr. Tomaselli?
I did not know.
All right, so give me your version, please, of what happened on the evening of April 3rd.
It was going well. The music was going. I did notice Ed and his friends hanging out at the party earlier. I didn't...
Mr. Valentine, could you try to focus on me, sir? Focus on me. Not up in the air, not in the heavens, not at your shoes. Try to focus on me. So when you're thinking, you can think and look at me at the same time.
Okay.
Okay.
To my left, Amber was standing in the corner, talking with some friends. We gave each other a hug. We ended up talking for about another 5 minutes. Finished continuing going into the hallway where Ed was standing. She said, "Oh, hi, Ed. This is my friend PJ." "Hi, Ed." And instead of extending his hand out to greet me, he just cocked back and punched me in the face. And at that point, I started bleeding. I stepped back and exited, went to my car because I'm bleeding. I didn't want to fight. I just went, to my party.
How come you didn't call the police?
Because he had left already. Sure, I could call.
How do you know he left already if you went to your car?
Because Amber dragged him out, and I noticed this while I was leaving.
Okay, Mr. Tomaselli, now let's hear your version of the events.
On this night, I'd gone to the party. I was with my friends.
How did you get to the party?
I had taken Amber out for a couple of cocktails earlier, and while we were having cocktails, I don't drink, but Miss Triolo was. She said she was going to a party she was going to bartend at. "Would you like to go?" I said, "Sure." We were going to hook up, go to this party, hopefully go home later to my house. Maybe not. We weren't an item at that time.
Could we, listen, I'm not interested in the potential romance.
Okay, but this is how I got
there. Shh. I'm just interested in how you got there. So you knew her before.
Yes, Your Honor.
How long had you known Amber?
About a year, year and a half.
Had you dated?
Yes, Your Honor.
You dated exclusively or just off and on?
Off and on.
All right. So you saw her on the evening of April 3rd. You had a couple of drinks with her, and then she invited you to come to this party.
I did not drink, Your Honor. I don't drink. I haven't drank in years. I'm a wrestler, athlete, professional athlete.
Okay.
I didn't drink. So I went to this party. Amber was already there. We were standing in a circle.
Who was we?
Me, my friends, and Amber.
Could you look at me when you...
Mr. Valentine came in from outside, started snuggling up next to Amber. Amber introduced us all. I said, "That's messed up," because they were snuggling. I thought I was going to be with Amber, so I walked away. When I was walking away, Mr. Valentine came up behind me, pursued me down this hallway, and said, "What's up, dog?" Okay, he did not put his hand out. He had his hand clenched, and he reached out to me. Through my experience...
How did you see that, sir, if you were walking away and he was behind you?
I was in the hallway where I turned around to see what was going on. I walked through the hallway. There was a lot of people. I turned around to see where my buddies were, and Mr. Valentine was behind me.
Yes.
He put his hand on my shoulder, said, "What's up, dog?"
How did he put his hand on your shoulder?
Reached out towards me.
Touched your shoulder.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
At that time, I turned around and said, "I'm not your dog." And yes, I did hit him. Through my experience and expertise, I know when someone comes up behind you and says, "What's up, dog?" he has bad intentions. A man this size has the potential of hurting me, someone my size, very badly.
All right, Amber, front and center. You and Mr. Tomaselli were out earlier that evening?
Yes.
Mr. Tomaselli did not drink?
No.
You got to the party? You went with him?
No.
You went in your own car?
I believe so, yes.
Try getting it more specific than that. Did
Yeah,
you go in
I
your own
drove.
car or did you go with Mr. Tomaselli?
No, I drove.
So you met there?
Yes.
Why do I feel as if I'm telling this story by myself? These are not trick questions. They may get harder, but right now they're not trick questions, Amber. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
All right. You were present at the time that Mr. Valentine was struck in the mouth?
Yes.
Tell me how that happened. Try looking at me when you tell me how that happened.
We were talking, Patrick and I, and Mr. Tomaselli walked up and I said, "Hey Ed, how's it going?" You know, I gave him a hug, told him hi, and I introduced him to PJ, and instead of them meeting each other, he just socked him in the face.
Why would he do that?
Jealousy.
He wasn't drunk or anything, right?
No.
He was clearly angry because he said, "Hey, that's messed up." Right, Mr. Tomaselli?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, who are you?
My name's Kyle McElroy.
Kyle, you were there that day.
I was there that evening.
Good. And I know that you're dying to tell me your version of these events, aren't you, Kyle?
I can't wait.
Well, then just step up here, Kyle. Kyle, how old are you?
I'm 21.
How long have you known Mr. Tomaselli?
I knew none of the parties that night.
How'd you get to this party?
Through a friend of mine. It's a Wednesday night kegger that, as far as I knew, it was like a deal that they had every Wednesday.
Wednesday night, the West Wing is on. Why would anybody want to go to a kegger?
So, would you like me to tell
I
my story?
would.
Okay. Like he said, we were standing there talking. We were sitting there talking to Amber. This guy walked up. We were introduced. We were standing there. Then Ed got, frustrated, decided to...
Just a minute. I'm going to ask you to speculate. Why did Ed get frustrated?
Well, like you say, the girl he thought he was coming to meet at the party was...
Canoodling.
Canoodling. So...
With somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I saw Ed walking away. The guy kind of came up behind him and kind of turned his shoulder. "What's up, dog?" Ed said, "I'm not your dog."
Well, you just did something. You said, "What's up, dog?" And then you did something like extend your hand.
But kind of, yeah, well...
What does that mean?
Well, like I said...
Touched him on his shoulder, right?
Yeah. Ed took it as a threat, obviously. Punched the guy.
Sit down.
Thank you.
You too. Mr. Tomaselli, you're clearly a very powerful young man. You are proficient in the martial arts.
Yes, Your Honor.
One of the things that they teach you, because I know I have grandchildren who take these martial art classes, is you're supposed to be able to control yourself, Mr. Tomaselli, right? It's all about control, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
I don't think you controlled yourself well that night, Mr. Tomaselli. I think you got very angry. You can't even make an excuse that you'd had something to drink, but you hurt him badly. And there was no aggression on his part, not even according to your witness. He was probably stupid drunk, but he's just sort of a big goof. Mr. Tomaselli, I want you to trust me. He's really just sort of a big goof.
If you say so, Your Honor.
Well, Mr. Tomaselli, he didn't come up behind you, spin you around, and punch you. He came up, he put his hand on you and said to you, "What's up, dog?" Now, I don't know what that means, and I may be out of things. My children are older than Officer Byrd's children. Do you know what "what's up, dog" means? What does it mean?
How you doing, man?
How you doing? That's what it would seem to me to mean. What's up, dog? It's not necessarily a term of endearment, but it's not, choose your weapons, we're going to joust.
Not from my mouth, at least.
Oh, you're just a big doughboy. He's you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. Not a bad guy. Let me see your dental bills, Mr. Valentine.
The first occurred is for the infection. I got all puffed up and in pain. I couldn't sleep for 3 days, and
you're right.
That I had to get antibiotics, painkillers, so I could finally sleep and go back to work.
Which tooth was it? The tooth that's missing?
Yeah.
That one? You need an implant there?
I still need to get my implant.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today...
Where did you pick Mr. Holloway up?
Commerce Casino.
Who else was with him?
2 other gentlemen, young, two 20-year-olds or something like that.
Maybe that's what you were fighting with your fiancé about.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Patrick Wallentine says fellow partygoer Ed Tomaselli punched him in the mouth. Ed says Patrick was too friendly with his date.
What do you do for a living?
I do a lot of things, but right now
What you just said, what's your favorite thing?
My favorite?
Yeah. You know, you do a lot of things, so tell me what your favorite,
My
what
favorite
your fave is.
is to sing and host people, kind of like parties.
This is so painful.
That's my favorite thing. But right now, I do have a painting business and a construction business that I work for. So I can do anything.
Can't put in an implant.
I can.
See what I mean? Mr. Tomaselli.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thomas, you misjudged his intent. Put your hand down.
Sorry.
All right? He's a lover, not a fighter. Do you know what I mean? He didn't want to hurt you. And you overreacted because you were angry. And you have to pay for that. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Ed didn't tell the truth. I did not touch him.
It was a tombstone, flying ruckus, left.
I fell back, and that's all, and I walked out.
Went down like everybody.
Maybe he's been choked a couple times, can't really remember it quite straight.
When they step up to the plate, like Hank Aaron, I just knock him out of the park.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Soyak versus Holloway. Step forward, please.
Limousine driver James Soyak is suing former client, business owner Tim Holloway, for an unpaid hotel bill. James says Tim is a scammer.
Mr. Holloway, how old are you, sir?
33.
What kind of work do you do, sir?
I have a maintenance company.
How long have you had it?
My dad had it since '59. I took it over about 3 years ago.
He's no longer involved in the business.
Sometimes, yeah.
So he still goes into the office?
Correct.
On a daily basis?
2 or 3 times a week.
Are you making this up as we're going along, sir?
No.
Are you trying to give me accurate answers? Because you never can tell why I'm asking you these questions.
Correct.
Now, do you live alone or do you live with someone else?
I live with my fiance.
Did you move into her place or did you move in someplace together?
Together.
When?
2 years ago.
What's the address?
North Wilson.
How large an apartment is it?
It's a condo, 2 bedrooms, 2 baths.
Are you renting or did you buy it?
We're renting that.
Are you both on the lease?
Yes.
This is like shooting fish in a barrel. Now, Mr. Soyak, you drive a limousine.
Yes, ma'am.
And your complaint is that you drove Mr. Holloway in your limousine to a casino, hotel.
Yes.
And he told you that he'd forgotten his wallet and he needed a hotel room. So you agreed to put the hotel room on your credit card.
Yes, ma'am.
That's not true.
He used the room and then stiffed you for the reimbursement.
I rented 2 rooms for him, $99 each.
In addition, he didn't have his wallet, so he said he needed some money. You gave him cash. He gave you a check.
Yes, ma'am.
For $300. The check bounced.
Yes.
That's not true.
What's not true, sir?
The room, not the check.
Let's talk about the check.
Okay.
Let me hear.
I gave him a check. Me and my fiance was having problems at the house. I couldn't get to what I need to get to the bank. I owe him for the $300, but the hotel room, it never happened.
Okay. Now, Mr. Holloway, your last paragraph of your answer, which you swore to, sir, says, I did give him a check for $300, which was returned. I explained that I had just moved and was having problems with my bank account.
I did just move.
No, just a second. I explained that I had just moved.
Same thing I just said.
No, that's not. Mr. Holloway, let me understand something, sir. No more than 5 minutes ago, I said to you, where do you live? You gave me the address. Who do you live with? I live with my fiance. How long have you lived there in the condo? 2 years. Did you sign a lease? Yes.
That's what I said, but I just moved. If we was having problems, evidently, I had to leave because we was having problems. So I did leave. Now, when we reconciled, that's one thing, but I did leave. So what I told you is the truth.
Can I see the bills for the 2 rooms, please? Mr. Soyak, how long have you been driving a limousine?
10 years.
Okay. You ever had this kind of trouble?
Never.
Mr. Soyak, let me explain something to you. Don't be an idiot. You don't take out your credit card, allow somebody to put money on your credit card. You don't take checks from people you don't know.
You're absolutely right.
Good. Can I have it, please? The rooms you rented for $99, but he certainly did a lot more damage than the $99.
He drank everything in the bar. Plus movies, plus phone calls.
I never went in the room.
Okay. You owe him a whole bunch of money, sir. You owe him for these 2 hotel rooms. Who else was with you? Who else was with him, Mr. Soyak?
He found a couple of young gentlemen. They were walking the street while we were in Old Town Pasadena, and he claimed he's a music producer. And I don't know how he knew these guys can sing, but he made friends with them and invited them later to be picked up in the car, and we drove them also to the Commerce Casino. He didn't want the other two men to sleep in the same room as him, so he wanted me to get a separate room for them.
That's a lie. That never happened.
It's not a lie because I have my witnesses
Mr. Holloway,
here.
Mr. Holloway.
I have my witnesses here. My other driver that picked him up Sunday.
So you dropped him off and somebody else picked him up?
Yes.
Who picked him up?
Richard. He's my co-driver.
Step up, sir. Your last name?
Thompson.
Where did you pick Mr. Holloway up?
Commerce Casino.
Who else was with him?
2 other gentlemen, like young, like 2 20-year-olds or something like that.
Maybe that's what you were fighting with your fiancé about. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,113. That's all. Step out.
Thank you.
Yes, case number 10 on the calendar in the matter of Selby versus Burke. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, please.
Mr. Selby, the defendant is your former girlfriend. You have a child together, and it is your claim that she filed 2 cases against you for domestic violence, both of which were false. One she dropped, the next one she pursued. You were found not guilty, and you are suing her for those false charges. Ms. Burke says that you did, in fact, put your hands on her in a violent manner on both of those occasions, which is why she called the police.
Yeah.
How old is your child?
He's almost 2.
Do you have an order declaring you to be the father of this child?
No.
Why not?
My name's not on the birth certificate because she was married when my son was born, and I'm not legally considered the father.
He is. He went to court and said that he was the father in my divorce.
Okay. Well, he may have gone to say he was the father in your divorce, but has there been an adjudication of paternity in any court?
No, ma'am.
Oh, you are, sir. Listen to me very carefully. I have a surprise for you. You're going to be very happy to hear this. It says the third-party defendant, that was you, Jason Selby, that is your name, is it not?
Correct.
Is hereby established as the biological father of the minor child, Brendan Selby.
Okay.
We're going to get you a copy of this, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
You are the father. You have certain rights and certain responsibilities, Mr. Selby. It's interesting when I read your case, when I read your complaint, the defendant is now living in another area, so you haven't been seeing your son. How old was your son when you 2 separated?
It was about 1.5 years.
Okay. Now, Ms. Burke, I'm coming to you. When was the first instance of domestic violence which was the subject of a restraining order that you placed upon Mr. Selby?
September.
Okay, and tell me what happened in September of 2004.
He came.
Who was this, by the way?
This is the guy that used to live up front, our neighbor, Robert Menu.
And what is he now?
A witness to both incidents.
Okay, this is not the boyfriend that he talks about, is that right?
It's not the boyfriend. He's never been my boyfriend.
But he came with you to court?
Right.
And you live in Florida?
Right.
And he flew with you from Florida?
Right.
Did you
Yes.
stay together last night in the same place?
They wouldn't give us 2 separate hotel rooms.
I'm just asking you a question.
Yes.
Okay. I never stayed in the same hotel room with a neighbor when I traveled.
I asked, and they said that there was going to be at least 2 separate beds, because I asked her about that, about getting 2 separate hotel rooms.
Mm-hmm. You think I believe you? I don't. Let's move on. September 2004.
He came to the house, and we were arguing about Brendan, our son. I went into the room, and I was packing my stuff and putting it in a bag.
Just a second. So this was a place that you lived together?
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't come to your house?
He moved out. He had moved out when...
When had he moved out?
Maybe 2 days before that, because he had found a letter, and he went through my stuff. And
A letter from whom?
Me. It was stuff that I wrote about my feelings, about him and the way he treated me.
Okay.
And...
So he moved out?
He packed his stuff, yes, and left and went to his aunt's house, I believe.
Keep going.
And he pushed me back because I went to try to go around him in the bedroom to leave, and I told him to leave me alone and to let me go.
Well, what did he do?
He kept pushing me back.
That's not what you said in here. You said he pushed you once.
He kept trying to stop me from going.
Don't make things up as we're going along, Miss Burke. You said in your answer that he pushed you one time, not kept pushing you. Now, which one was it? Did he push you one time, as you swore to in your complaint, or did he push you multiple times, as you just told me?
He did push me one time, but he kept, like, holding, like, where I couldn't get around him. He would move over to the side to where I couldn't get around him. When I did get a...
Blocking, not pushing.
Right.
Go ahead.
Before I had gotten to the car is when he had shoved me from behind. We fell into the car. He wouldn't let me get into the car, and that's when Robert had called the police.
You have a police report?
Not with me, no.
Do you?
Yes.
I'd like to see it, please. All right, Mr. Selby, you want to tell me what happened on September 9th, please?
Can I start from September 8th?
If it's absolutely necessary. If it's not necessary, it's just going to irritate me.
September 8th, I was at work with her son Tyler because there were hurricanes, the schools were closed. When she came to pick me up from work, she brought Robert with her to pick me up from work. We went home.
On September 8th?
Correct. She left with Robert for approximately 2 hours. I knew she wrote that 19-page letter, so I went looking for it, and it confirmed they were together. She has since got her hands on it and destroyed it. There were police called that night because...
Why?
He threatened me that he was going to beat me up. Then he called the police because I was on his property, which it was like 2 places on 1 piece of land. The police came out and they escorted her off the property with the kids. September 9th, I found out she was packing not her stuff, but everything, my stuff, which I still don't have today. I never went into the bedroom where they said I pushed her. I was never in there. I was in the living room the whole time. I went to leave, get into my aunt and uncle's car. She ran to the car. I raced her to the car. I beat her to the car. No one fell. There were no tripping.
Why was she running to the car?
To take it.
Go ahead.
When I got in the car, Robert ran over on the phone, said he witnessed me hit her. I did it, I did it. I asked to speak to the cop. He wouldn't let me get on the phone.
Okay. Why did you drop that case?
Because Jason, we were going to try to reconcile and get back together, and he had told me that he was going to go to counseling, which I believe he did in fact go in January.
Counseling for what?
For being abusive mentally and physically, because September was not the first time that he has actually been in trouble for hitting me.
So you dropped those charges in September?
Right.
And when was the next time you filed an application for a restraining order?
February 3rd.
What was that about?
I got a call from my babysitter that I needed to call H&R Block, so I called them, and they said that my income tax had been denied because my children's Social Security numbers had come back that they were already claimed.
Did you claim both boys?
No, just Brendan.
Just
I got
Brendan.
it right here.
Okay.
It was my understanding that he claimed both the children.
So you were mistaken?
Right.
So, what did you do?
So I called him, and I told him that I was going to come over, and I went over to his house.
With whom?
With Robert.
Big mistake.
Right.
Big.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Don't make things up as you're going along. I can tell I have a truth meter back here. When somebody is giving me the business, my left eye starts to twitch.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jason Selby says, on 2 occasions, ex-girlfriend Anne Marie Burke had him falsely arrested for domestic violence.
So here's what we have, Ms. Burke. We have your husband, who, according to the police report back in September, was of the belief that you were having an affair with Robert.
Right.
That's all over the police report. Whether you were or whether you weren't, I don't have to get into now. That's not my business. Quite frankly, I don't care. The fact that you shared a room together last night is some indication to me that you're more than just friendly neighbors. However, you knew that he was harboring that belief, so to bring Robert to his house was a large mistake.
Well, the only reason why I brought Robert was because he's the only one that I had as far as a male figure, because I am afraid of Jason.
Then you shouldn't have gone to his house. What do you think you were going to accomplish going to his house as opposed to asking him on the telephone what happened?
I couldn't ask him on the telephone because his phone was breaking up. There was...
Put your hand down. This was an emergency situation that you had to go over with him that day?
I was upset.
You were
I wanted
angry?
to talk to him.
Just a minute. You were angry.
Yes, ma'am.
So, you were angry and you called Robert to go over with you.
Right.
What happened when you got there?
I went up the stairs.
And where was Robert?
Sitting in the car.
Go ahead.
And I was going up the stairs and I asked him, you know, why did he do that? I said, you know, I'm trying to get money
What do you mean, sir? Going up the stairs, I didn't hear him at the door. I didn't.
Oh, he was outside. When we pulled up, he was standing outside smoking, and we could see him the way his house is. There's stairs that go up this way, and you got to go around.
So you're
the
going up
ledge.
the stairs, and as you're going up the stairs, what are you saying to him?
I asked him why he was, you know, why did he claim the kids?
That doesn't sound right to me, madam. You were asking him in the same kind of voice you were asking me?
No, I was angry. I mean, I wasn't yelling and screaming, but I was talking a lot louder than what I am now.
I assumed you were. Go ahead.
And I told him, I said, you know, that's not right that you claim Tyler. It's not right that, you know, I said, you haven't paid child support. You haven't come to see your kid. And I said, you know, you can at least let me claim the kids. You know, I'm trying to make it on my own.
That's not, you weren't having this whole discussion as you're walking upstairs, madam. That doesn't sound logical. If it doesn't sound logical, it's not true.
By the time I was steadily talking.
I know what you're thinking, but that's not what you were saying to him as you were walking upstairs furious because you had just gotten the call from H&R Block, and the first person you called was Robert. How tall are you, Robert?
6 foot.
Yeah. Called Robert to come over with you. Okay. So you're walking up the stairs screaming. Go ahead.
I get around the corner, and we start talking, arguing. I told him that he's not a good father. We started arguing about that, about him not being a good dad and him not coming to see Brendan. I did tell him that he was, and he asked me, you know, because I had called the IRS and found out that he can't legally claim Tyler. And that's what I told him he was for. And
no, you just said you was because I called the IRS.
Right.
You didn't go through this whole explanation. You just said, listen to me. Don't make things up as you're going along. I can tell I have a truth meter back here. When somebody has given me the business, my left eye starts to twitch. You got it? So you told him because you called the IRS.
Right.
Okay. And what happened next, Miss Burke?
I again told him that he was a bad father, and that's when he had smacked me in my eye. And he went in the house. I went running down the steps and got in the car, and I left.
Can I see the police report, please? Yes. Incident number 2. Did you seek medical treatment?
No.
Can I clarify that day? First, on January 24th, I called her because she told me she moved to South Florida and she was living with her brother in South Florida. Up until February 3rd, that's where I thought she was living. She told me if I tried to call down there to be in my son's life, she was going to get me in trouble for harassment. So I called the police to verify that. They said she could say whatever she wants, but it would be
Can we get to, please, to February 3rd?
February 3rd, I spoke to a family lawyer and the county courthouse. I couldn't file anything because I didn't know her address. That night, I got home from work. I was playing PlayStation, got a phone call on my cell phone, answered it, and there was low signal, and it didn't come in. She called back about 2 minutes later. She said, "Good, you're home, I'm coming over," and hung up on me. She pulled up. I was standing on the balcony. She got out of the car, and her first words were, "You're an effing thief."
Go ahead.
So I went right in the house, I shut the screen door, and we were separated the whole time by a screen door. Robert, I didn't know he was there until I got the copy of the police report. I never once saw him there. I called the police the minute she said, "You're," and she left. Called the police, explained that she falsified a report once before. I don't want to be in trouble. They assured me I wouldn't be in trouble. Police officer showed up at my door, told me that I was accused of hitting her, and I basically ended up going to jail.
How long?
For overnight.
What I don't understand, Miss Burke, is this. You testified a moment ago that you were afraid of this man, that he had been abusive to you. So I don't understand why you went over to his house.
Because I didn't think that having somebody with me that he would do anything. I didn't think that he would do that.
The person that you brought with you was sitting, according to you, in the car.
Right.
And the first words out of your mouth were what?
I told him he was a thief. I didn't...
No. You told him he was a blank thief.
No, I didn't say that. I did not say that. I told him he was a thief.
Okay. So the first thing that you said to him was, you're a thief, as you were walking up the stairs.
Yes.
You were angry, agitated. Did you think that that was going to provoke him? Especially since you were wrong.
You're right.
And you think that if you hadn't gone over there to this person that you were really afraid of, that all this would have happened?
I didn't honestly think that he would do something with somebody there, because when we did pull up, he was leaning, you know, smoking a cigarette out over the...
Well, what did you intend to accomplish, Miss Burke? He had already claimed your son, you thought 2 sons, but he had already claimed your son on his tax returns. That was done.
I thought that he would help.
You thought that he would help, and your first statement to him was, you're a thief? That's the way you wanted to start this exchange, this friendly exchange? Now, Mr. Selby, have you ever exercised poor judgment with regard to Miss Burke?
Yeah, meeting her, unfortunately.
Well, I'm not talking about just meeting her. I'm talking about other things. Have you ever exercised poor judgment?
Yes.
And have you ever exercised poor judgment when the police weren't called?
Probably.
The primary thrust of your complaint here is that you were embarrassed.
For the defamation of character.
Right. I can understand that that happened. And I think that you deserve to be compensated for that, because I don't believe that you hit her.
Thank you.
And clearly neither did a court. If you ever want to have a relationship with this child, it's your responsibility to go into court immediately and seek an order of visitation and be prepared to enter into an order of support for your son. She didn't move out of state, but she moved away from where the 2 of you were living. Certainly, you wouldn't like it if he took the child, would you?
I actually set up dates for him to come see his son.
How
and he
far
won't
away
come.
did you move?
Like 10 minutes. I only live like 10 minutes away from him. And my phone number's
then what are
never
you
changed.
complaining about, Mr. Selby?
To this day, I don't know where she lives.
He's always known where I lived, and he knows my phone number. It's never changed.
Easy. If you say he knows where you live, where do you live?
My new address is 216 Street.
When did you move there?
Probably like a month ago.
Did you give him that address?
No.
So he doesn't have that address?
He has my phone number.
Listen to me, Miss Burke. I speak English. It's my primary language. You say he's always known my address. He's always known where I live.
From the time that he's been trying to visit his son, he has always known the house that I have stayed in.
You said that you moved.
I moved.
I don't understand. Stayed in, lived. You know, you're being slick with me. Don't be slick with me.
I'm not trying to be slick. I'm
Mr.
nervous,
Selby,
and he's had the
You
opportunity.
go to court, establish an order of visitation. That's what you have to do. She didn't move 100 miles away. According to her, she lives no more than 10 or 15 minutes away from where you live. Is that what you're swearing to today, madam?
Yes.
Well, that's what you have to do.
In order, I tried, but I don't have a physical address where she is.
Well, now she just gave it to you.
Right. And in the beginning, she moved right in with Robert. So I wasn't
There's
gonna
no
go
question
visit.
about that. She identifies Robert, and Robert identifies himself as her live-in roommate.
Yeah, it's going to be very tough
Just
for
a second.
me.
Very live-in. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
خمس قمار میساتي پروردگار میساتي د ډیر غربت باوجود خصم سنگار میساتي مور می چینه د دعا لکه چینار میساتي
Put